I drove in. That was about 4 hours ago. See everybody else saying how nice out it is. So if you're kind enough to tune in on this beautiful summer night, I want you to get the show that you want. So we'll talk whatever sports you want to talk. 617-779-0985 here on the Sports Hub. Well, I'm coming back from a one-day vacation. I enjoyed 4th of July weekend. I had a very good 4th of July weekend. I was broken up a little bit. I wasn't here 1 to 5 on Saturday with George Bilecki. We had a fun show there, but I'm not necessarily having maybe the shock to the system that some people are coming back to work today. I mean, 4th of July on a Friday is the ultimate 4th of July weekend. So again, I'm just coming back from really one day. Skaz is coming back, I think, from an entire week, if I have that correct, right? Because is the last show you did the show you did with me last week?
Tuesday night, yes.
Tuesday night.
So you had
a whole week off. How are you feeling today?
I feel good. Happy to be back. A little news to talk about. Not too much news, unfortunately. Maybe we'll get some breaking news tonight. Feeling good, though. Well rested. We're back, Barth. We're ready to go. We're locked in for the summer now.
Yeah. So you know what take I hate? You say locked in for the summer. Some people out there have this take. My mom always says this every year. And it used to really bum me out when I was younger. Now I just don't get it. She says the summer's over after the 4th of July.
Yeah, it's a very Tom Morgan take right there.
Is Morgan on that too?
He is some take similar. I can't remember if it's exactly that, but yeah, something like that.
So then, what is it? What is it? Fall? Is it autumn? Right now, go look outside. Tell me it's autumn. I think it was 90 degrees today. You're not going to find an orange, yellow, or brown leaf anywhere. But it's autumn because 4th of July is over. Summer runs through Labor Day weekend to me. Like, that's the cutoff. I know it's technically like the seasons, right, is mid-September, but it's Memorial Day to Labor Day. It's that easy. Or in my case, the draft to Labor Day.
I was going to say,
but I don't live a real.
Summer's
calendar.
over when football's on the TV. That's when summer's over to me.
But preseason football is a very summertime kind of activity. It's much more laid back.
Yeah, I'm not talking like week 0. I'm talking like, week 1, NFL week 1. That's summer's over.
Well, college week 1 is Labor Day weekend usually, which is kind of the perfect transition, like Boom. Out of summer. It's the one time a year I watch football on the beach, which are my 2 favorite things to do: watch football and be on the beach. And it's the one time a year that they intersect because I don't have to worry about the Patriots the next week. At least, we'll see when they go to 18 games what they do. But yeah, I don't know. If you're a summer ends at the 4th of July person, 617-779-0985. Not only do I want to hear your argument, I want you to answer, what is it right now? Is today fall? I don't want to hear late summer because that's summer. Yeah, it is kind of the second half of the summer, but it's summer. Since the summer's not even close to over, we should all be enjoying it. This is another one. People get mad at me when I sometimes like around this time of year, usually right after the 4th of July or maybe after the NBA Finals just before the 4th of July, I'll just be like, hey, is it college football season yet? Is it football season yet? And people are like, why are you rushing the summer to be over? Well, apparently it ends like 2 weeks after that anyway. Or it's over now anyway. I don't know. There's too many like summer truthers out there. Well, summer's just a season with good PR. It's too hot and this and that. But summer's the best season. It's the best season. You get to be outside all day, all night. It's light out later. It's just less going on. It's more relaxing. I'm a big summer guy. Let the summer last as long as it can. Stop trying to end it at the 4th of July. Although this was, you're little pins and needles. Little pins and needles for this 4th of July as a sports fan around here. Maybe not as much as some past. I saw people posting remember the trip to, was it the Vineyard or Nantucket where they took Kevin Durant that year, and it was Isaiah Thomas, Kelly Olynyk, and Tom Brady.
Oh, wasn't it like the Hamptons or something?
Oh, maybe it was the Hamptons.
I think it might have been.
I don't know. Of course, I assumed it was the Cape, wherever it was. So maybe not as pins and needles as that one. Remember waking up that 4th of July morning to see Kevin Durant, that now famous memed picture in the piece in the Players Tribune that he was going to Golden State?
Yeah, I can't believe Kelly Olynyk couldn't get that deal done.
Why did they say? I will never understand why they sent Kelly Olynyk. Isaiah Thomas, well, not on the same level of Tom Brady. He was coming off a great season. He's like a very charismatic guy. Totally got the city, the team, everything. He was also pretty much their best player at that point. Like, that one made sense. I don't know that Kelly Olynyk needed to be there.
Jay Crowder was there as well.
Jay Crowder seems like an excellent vibes guy. I'm fine with Crowder being there.
Yeah, Danny Ainge, Pags, Olynyk, Smart, Isaiah Thomas, and TB12.
The only one who did, and I was never a Kelly Olynyk guy, famously. But the only one who didn't need to be there was Olynyk. The rest of that group maybe would have got it done without him. But anyway, maybe not as much pins and needles, but you're still waiting because the Celtics might make, I don't know, do we call these a splash? Damian Lillard available, a free agent. Bradley Beal's name comes up randomly on Sunday morning. I think some people had some expectations he could maybe be moved, but Sunday, I don't even think it was Sunday morning. I think it was Sunday afternoon. Suddenly you see Bradley Beal's going to be available. And the Celtics still hadn't made those trades official. They are now, the Porzingis and Holiday trades, and we'll get to those. But the Celtics had not made those official yet. So you're still a little on pins and needles waiting to see if the Celtics would do something. And I think this is an interesting conversation because the Celtics, I'm fascinated by the team building element of sports. And the Celtics are just in such a unique position right now. They have, on paper, a championship contending roster. Their best player's likely out for the year. Their next best player is going to play, but he's coming back from a knee injury. And when will he be ready? Will there be workload conversations there with him? You have this looming apron, which I don't like. I don't like the way the CBA is set up. I've talked about this. Skaz, I think we talked about it last week. But it's a factor. It's a factor in how they build this thing. And now, okay, you send out Porzingis, Holiday, two really good players. Is there a chance a star could come back? Is Damian Lillard realistic? Is Bradley Beal realistic? Do either of them make sense? I think Lillard's realistic in the sense that I think it could happen. I think the Celtics would want it to happen. There's a path for that. I don't think, based on reporting, Lillard's interested in it. Bradley Beal, we know a little less about his market because it's newer and he's not officially bought out yet. But this is a guy that is a very close friend of Jason Tatum, has been since they were growing up together in St. Louis. There's a clear draw there. The Celtics have been tied to Beal in the past. That was 2 years ago, which might as well be 10 years ago, the way the last few years have gone for the Celtics. But, they're realistic. They're realistic opportunities. But are they the right move for the Boston Celtics? Is adding a Bradley Beal, is adding a Damian Lillard the right move for the Celtics at this stage where they're at right now? I can't get excited about it. I can't. I'm not saying I'm totally against it. But I think there are a few important caveats when you discuss either of those players that you need to keep in mind, and either that player needs to be okay with or the team needs to be okay with if one of those players is going to come to Boston. What are those caveats? How realistic are they? If it comes down to both of them, there might be a choice here. Who would the choice be if you're the Boston Celtics? Who is the right choice? Bradley Beal or Damian Lillard? We'll start off with that coming up next, plus your call, 617-779-0985. We're also on YouTube. You want to get involved in the chat, I'll take a look there. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray tonight on the Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.5. You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.5 The Sports.
They both grew up in St. Louis. They both went to the same high school, Chaminade High School. I think I'm getting that right. In St. Louis. Now, Beal was a few years older, but they still had, and they didn't play together in high school. They played together in AAU, but they still had that relationship. And now here we go. Bradley Beal could be available. Mark Stein reporting yesterday, Beal, quote, is, quote, actively exploring his options with other teams ahead of an anticipated buyout from the Suns. The Suns totally hitting reset, it appears, in the aftermath of the Kevin Durant era in that trade. Beal didn't totally live up to expectations in Philly, so he was traded, or in Phoenix, in Philly. Nobody lives up to expectations in Philly. That's the Sixers. He was traded to Phoenix 2 years ago in a big deal. This was after he had signed a significant contract extension, 5 years, $251 million, and basically signed that, played under it for a year, and then got traded to Phoenix. And his production has not been the same. He's dropped off in terms of points per game each of the last 3 years. He shot under 50% from the floor last year for the first time in 3 years. He shot just over 38% from three last year. That was down from 43% the year before. Averaged 17 points. That was his lowest total per game. Now, his minutes were down, but not significantly. He was down about a minute from where he typically was, but his points per game at 17 were his lowest since the 2014-2015 season. He actually played more minutes per game that year. So, a player that is not on an upswing. I don't think he's as old as some people think he is. He just turned 32 last week. I guess a little more, 2 weeks ago, June 28th. And he is healthy compared to Damian Lillard, who had, statistically, if we're going to look at the box score, had a better year last year, averaged 25 points per game once again, shot 45% from the floor, 38% from three. Those are both up from the previous year, his first year in Milwaukee. But Lillard is going to turn 35 later this month. I think a week from today, if my math is right, a week from tomorrow. That's why you don't do math on the air. Lillard's going to turn 35 a week from tomorrow. And he's realistically not even going to play again until he's 36 because he's coming off the torn Achilles. So the reason I compare the two is reason stands, and I wrote about this on 985thesportso.com this morning. If the Celtics are interested in Damian Lillard, which the reporting is they are, wouldn't they also probably be interested in Bradley Beal if he gets bought out? It's the same thing. You're not going to have to pay him market value. It's probably going to be more than the veteran minimum. I think too many people are penciling in Damian Lillard for the veteran minimum. And if he has a wide market, which it sounds like he does, yes, Milwaukee's still going to pay him the money they owe him, but if he can pocket a couple more million and create a bidding war, why not? So, probably not over the MLE, but the mid-level exception could be in play here. But I would think it's about the same money for either one. Because, again, Lillard's older and coming off that injury, but he's produced better than Beal in recent years. He's been a better player than Bradley Beal for most of his career. But that was an Achilles tear ago. So if you're the Celtics, and it's all things even, money's more or less the same, who would you rather have? Or if you're in a bidding war for both, who are you offering more money to? I think I'd go Bradley Beal. I don't think this is the popular opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. 617-779-0985. One, he's healthy. He's healthy, and I get it. There's some attractiveness to some people that Lillard won't play this year because they think the Celtics are tanking. They're not tanking. Bradley Beal is going to help you be competitive this year without Jason Tatum. I also think he's more likely to seamlessly slide into a supporting role. Damian Lillard's never really been in a true supporting role in his career. He was, for 11 years, the guy, the dude, the star in Portland. He goes to Milwaukee. Yes, he's with Giannis, but that's a 1-2 punch. His name's right there on the ticket too. Maybe it's listed second, but he's on the marquee. If he comes here, again, at 30 He's going to be 36 years old by that point, coming off a torn Achilles, as a volume shooter on a team with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I don't think he's going to have that kind of standing. Can he slide into that role? Maybe. The way Al Horford sort of did when he came back to Boston the second time. Maybe Damian Lillard can do that. And if he can, and you sit down with him and he pledges he's willing to do it, I'm more interested. Now, Beal's been a star for most of his career too, but not on the same level. And I think his minutes have been going down in recent years. I think he'd fit into that complementary role more. There's also that factor of his close relationship with Jason Tatum. He may be more accepting of certain things here, getting to play with Tatum. It's also interesting how the Tatum relationship will impact what the Celtics ultimately do. Because, I talked about this with Michael Hawley last week when I was on with him. You look at all the stars around the league who are wannabe GMs. LeBron James is obviously at the top of that list. We've seen Giannis in Milwaukee really pull strings. Kevin Durant's done it. The Celtics stars, at least to this point in their careers, don't seem to have that in their DNA. Which is good. We trust you, Brad. Run the team. You make the decisions. I do wonder, though, if Tatum, as he starts to get to 30, does he maybe make a push for Bradley Beal? So I'd go with Beal. Really, I wouldn't sign either. Because I don't think it makes sense. If you want a volume scoring guard, you have Anthony Simons, who you're going to have to move off him or Hauser to add one of these guys if the Celtics' plan is to get under the second apron, which by all accounts it is. If you have a problem with that, and you say, no, they could have both if they would just spend like that, we can have that conversation. That's fair. But the reality we seem to be in is the Celtics want to get under the second apron and possibly under the luxury tax altogether, which means if you're adding Lillard or you're adding Beal, and they're under the second apron over the second apron right now. So if you're adding Lillard or you're adding Beal, you're moving off of somebody somewhat significant if those guys are coming with the MLE, which is probably Simons. Although now that deal's official, there's some restrictions on how they can move them, or you're moving off of Sam Hauser. Simons is just a younger version of what Lillard is at this point. He's a volume scorer, doesn't really play defense. Sort of the same for Beal. So I'd go neither. I'd stick with the group they have. I think both those guys, their best days are behind them. But if I had to pick one, I'd go with Bradley Beal. Skaz?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think neither is probably the right course of action for this team. Just because when I think Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard, yes, they're both great scorers, but at this point in their careers, that's about it. These are not guys that play, team basketball. These are not guys that defend. I wouldn't even say defend elite level. They're not guys that defend. They don't play defense. And you said Damian Lillard's going to be 36 coming off an Achilles when he comes back. I just don't know what that does for this roster, for this team. 35-year-old Bradley Beal, a couple mid-range jumpers here and there, fine. But
Beal's only going to be
33.
32.
Oh, okay, 32.
He just turned 32. So he's entering his age 32 season. Lillard is entering his age 35 season, but realistically, you won't see him on the floor till he's 36.
Yeah, so I guess because of age and health, you would have to lean Beal, but the problem with Bradley Beal is that I've just never seen him play winning team basketball. I've never seen it. And, at least a guy like Simons, he's young. You might be able to coach that into him. Right. You might be able to get him in the right culture where they get him to defend a little bit. They get him to buy into what they're doing to win. Beal, on the other hand, I'm just not sure that, at his age, he was the guy that was complaining about being compared to Drew Holiday at one point.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, they signed me to all this money and wanted me to be a scorer, and now they're asking me to play like Drew Holiday. Well, if you come to the Celtics and you're the third, fourth option, you're going to be a lot closer to Drew Holiday than you are, Bradley Beal in Phoenix.
Do you think maybe he becomes more flexible getting to play with Jason Tatum? Do you think that relationship is a factor here?
I think it's absolutely a factor, and I think you're already starting to see little inklings of Jason Tatum kind of. I'm never going to say he's a shadow GM or to LeBron or even there's so many examples in the NBA, but LeBron's the best one. I don't think Tatum's to that level, but I do think as these guys get older and you want to keep them happy, I do think stuff like that is absolutely possible, but I don't know if Tatum's in that position right now. He's going to be like, well, I'm going to be out all of next year, but you guys should really bring my one of my closest friends in here. I'd rather Tatum do that with Bam, personally, if they were going to go the Tatum route.
Well, but you want to get Bam, that's a whole other conversation now we have to have about assets and the apron and all that good fun
That's
stuff.
the Tatum buddy I'd be after if I was the Celtics. But yeah, I do think the Beal Tatum thing is real, and I think maybe if they were serious about moving Derek White, who's a close friend of Tatum, and if Al is gone, then maybe you're looking at bringing in Beal or somebody like that.
Yeah, I don't think the Celtics need to make that move. I don't think that guy... Well, we know Lillard doesn't make a difference next year because he simply won't be on the floor. And Beal's not going to replace what you got from Jason Tatum. Nobody is. So let the kids play. Let the kids develop. Reset the apron, and then you ramp back up in 26. But if you have to sign one of them, Bradley Beal makes you a little more interesting this year. He has that relationship with Tatum, and I just think you know what you're getting. Again, Lillard's been a better player throughout his career, and I am a big fan of Damian Lillard. He's one of my favorite players to watch. He always has been. One of my go-to guys in 2K, seriously. But I just objectively can't look past a guy that's going to be 36 years old coming off a torn Achilles. You know who that is? It's Aaron Rodgers. Right? Like, it's kind of the same setup, right?
I certainly don't want that guy.
Now, the Jets, on the field, on the court, I don't think Lillard's that kind of nutcase.
Yes, yeah, of course.
But, like...
Would be tough to be.
The Jets are already paid into Rodgers, and he tore his Achilles with them, so it's an imperfect comparison. But, like, you don't know what those guys are going to look like coming back. And if you're going to have to do this roster juggling with Simons or Hauser or whoever to get under the apron, I want to do it with a guy that I kind of know what I'm going to get. And maybe the ceiling isn't as high with Bradley Beal, but at least I feel comfortable you're going to get something. He's going to be a contributing scorer. Where he's at mentally and how he fits into the picture, that's another question. But when he's on the floor, if he does what you ask, he's going to give you something. Lillard could come back and we could find out there's nothing left in the tank. And then you moved on from a young, good scorer for nothing. So I'm team nobody, but if I have to pick one, I am intrigued by Bradley Beal. There is also, of course, I should add the variable of, based on reporting, Lillard wants to play for the Celtics. We haven't necessarily heard that about Bradley Beal one way or the other. There's just not that much out in terms of what he's looking to do. He's been linked to a few teams. The Heat are reportedly interested in him. The Clippers are reportedly interested in him.
I was just about to say, Bradley Beal and Chris Paul on the Clippers feels like a perfect Clippers move.
What is that for?
Just jersey sales, maybe? I don't even know.
Who's buying Chris Paul jerseys at this point?
Yeah, you should already have one.
The people still young enough to wear jerseys don't know who Chris Paul is.
Got to get one with the new Clippers logo, you know?
They have no idea.
Logo.
They have no idea about that Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan connection. I just had to look it up because I forgot he moved teams. That Clippers team you described, shouldn't, like, by law, Paul George have to be on that team? I know he's on the Sixers now, but I had to look and make sure he wasn't still on the Clippers because that's a Paul George team.
Yeah, absolutely. Get all the old guys together. I'm for it. Why not? Chris Paul, there's got to be a bunch of guys that could fill out that roster. I
think DeAndre Jordan's still kicking
that's
around,
what
right?
I was going to say. What's DeAndre Jordan up to?
Just rebuild that team with Paul George instead of Blake Griffin. And see what you can do. And Bradley Beal's thrown in there. He's like a baby in that group. All right, we got to hit the headlines. I see you guys on the phone. Rick, Levi, we'll get to you next. Quick check of the headlines here, though. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
Sports Hub headlines. Presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Red Sox had a runner on in the top of the first inning. They got a leadoff double, did not score. Now trying to hold off the Colorado Rockies in the top of the second. Rockies with 2 on and 1 out here in the first game of this 3-game set. But for now, it's still 0-0 with Richard Fitz on the mound. The Red Sox will have 3 representatives in the All-Star game we found out last night. Garrett Crochet, Aroldis Chapman, and Alex Bregman will all be heading to Atlanta. The Celtics made their trades initially reported last month official today. That includes a bit of an update, a change in compensation. The Drew Holiday deal is now an outright swap for Anthony Simmons that was originally reported. and it's Giants-Panthers 2015, which I believe that's the Josh Norman, Odell Beckham fight game, right? Maybe I have that year wrong. Maybe that was a different matchup. But anyway, that's the game I'm thinking of. And I'm like, I can't put it on. I'm going to get too distracted. And our intern Luke back here, find out he was 10 years old when that game was on. When you were born, 2005? This is like, Skaz, were you here that night? I don't know who it was. I think it was Kyle Fabrizio. I think it was one of the first times I worked with him. And Kyle's not that much younger than me, I don't think. So maybe I shouldn't have felt this bad about that. But the topic of Jock Jones came up. You remember Jock Jones, right?
Of course.
And we're going back through that Twins infield. Or Twins outfield, sorry. And like the outfielders from that time. And I brought up Torrey Hunter. And I was like, oh, Torrey Hunter was a legend. I loved Torrey Hunter when I was a kid. He goes, Torrey Hunter, the old guy from the Detroit Tigers? I swear to God, I almost made him take a lap. No, Torrey Hunter, who robbed the home run from Barry Bonds in the All-Star game. 9-time Gold Glover, Torrey Hunter. Oh, the old guy from the Tigers. When I started working here when I was 24 years old, so I've always kind of been the young guy. I'm sure you have too. You've had this experience, Gaz. We're on the younger side. And then we get these kids born in 2005 on here. You just make me face reality. I don't like it. Luke's a nice kid.
New generation.
Kid, shout out. But, I don't like the way that feels.
That's Alex Barth, 10 years ago,
Luke, do you know who Torrey Hunter is?
A big baseball guy.
Okay, good.
Yeah, big baseball guy.
So there's that. We have that. We were talking Celtics. If you want to reminisce about Torrey Hunter, it is the All-Star game coming up. If you want to reminisce about Torrey Hunter or Odell Beckham and Josh Norman just going at it on a random Sunday in December, we can get into that. But we were talking Celtics there before you hit the break. You guys are lined up to talk Celtics. You want to join 617-779-0985. Rick in Providence has a Celtics take for us. Rick.
Well, the way the Celtics are structured now, they had a great squad. They changed the rules with the salary. Their three best players, the two Jays and White, take up almost 90% of the salary cap. So their future is going to be two different things. Small value contracts like Pritchard, $6-7 million, which is great, or rookies or veteran minimum guys. That's why if you can get a Beal or a Dame for $5 million, you have to do it. Because who do you rather have in the playoffs? An older superstar at 10% of what he was making before, who you can trust to at least play offense and maybe you can hide on defense, or a callow guy who's going to be shell-shocked and can't get it done. They're going to have championship aspirations. The whole future with the Jays, once we knew these rules, is going to be friends of the Jays, veterans, ring chasers, and maybe if you hit on a Hugo or something, and they can play rotation minutes in high-leverage playoff situations. So that's why if you can get a Dame for $5 million,
So you would move off Hauser or Simons to get that smaller contract on the book.
Here's the problem with Simons. If he's good, you can't pay him next year. So you teach him to be good, right?
Right.
He plays defense. He's a bucket. He's going to want $20 to $25 million. You have no money in your center at all. Okay, if Al doesn't come back, you have all minimum guys at center. How are you going to compete in the finals if you got a $2 million guy at center and you're going against a Jokic or something?
Fair enough.
You got to distribute the set. You got to get some money into bigs. That's why, like, Nick Claxton isn't great, but if you had to get a $20 or $21 million center, I mean, maybe we hit a miracle and Amari Williams ends up being like phenomenal, but he's not going to be ready for a year or two. So they got to shore up they can't even pay Al $10 million. And Al's still a phenomenal in playing coverage guy in the playoffs. He makes big plays. He's a great second big. But they have to the rules broke up their dynasty, and now they have to go with this new normal. If they can get Beal and Dame, they can just outscore everybody. That's what they'll try to do.
Yeah, that's what the early. What year was those Steph Curry, Monta Ellis Warriors teams? That's what they tried to do, and they lost every game 150 to 140. Look, I get it. That's if you want to say this is an excuse to offload a big contract, right? All right, well, Simons isn't going to stay. This is a lost year. We're going to move off of him. Beal, Lillard still gives us a scoring option on that second unit or complementary to the Jays, and then we're going to turn around and use that money for a center. Fine. That's what it's going to have to look like. And also what centers are available. Real quick, Levi in Maine on Bradley Beal.
Hi, yeah. Bradley Beal would be a better fit for the Celtics because he would complement Jaylen Brown. And I don't know, I would compare him to watching '08 Kevin Garnett shoot long twos, which I would rather watch compared to them just chucking up threes. And the other thing I wanted to add is Pritchard.
Yep.
If you got Beal, you could get rid of Pritchard. And, I mean, I'd rather watch J.D. Davison over Pritchard.
All right, thanks for calling me. I'm not getting rid of Peyton Pritchard. He's on what's right now like a very affordable deal, relatively speaking, and he's a really good player for a team that's in the spot that the Celtics are in. So I'm not making that move. 617-779-0985. You want to join us and talk more Celtics? We are, though, going to talk Revs a little bit here. Leo Campana, a forward for your New England Revolution, is going to join us next ahead of their matchup with Miami and Messi later this week. Don't miss that. And then we got Matt Dolloff coming around at the top of the hour at 8 o'clock right here on the Sports Hub.
Don't go anywhere. There's more Joe Murray. On the way on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Don't get
for joining us tonight because it's kind of a weird week for you, I would imagine, right? You guys play on Saturday. You got a quick turnaround to this game on Wednesday, and it's coming off the West Coast trip. So really a short gap here in between games. How are you? Is this week any different for you? How are you handling this quick turnaround heading into Wednesday's game against Miami?
Yeah, well, obviously, I think for everyone it's a special game on Wednesday. Playing against Inter Miami, one of the biggest teams right now in the league, playing against the best in the history. That is Messi, obviously. So yeah, obviously it's an exciting week. We came from Portland that we got a loss, but I feel really good with the performance of the team. I think we give it all to take the 3 points. Definitely, we would have loved that, but it's sports. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. So nothing. It's part of the game. Yeah, right now really excited and ready to get the 3 points on Wednesday.
So as Messi tours through these MLS stadiums, it's like you said, it's an event when he shows up. It's a little bit different. Having been on Miami, and this was every game for you when you played for this team, have you kind of, maybe some of your teammates that haven't experienced this or not regularly, what have you told them about what it's going to be like when Messi and this team come to town and what Wednesday night is going to be like at Gillette?
Yeah, no, we talk the last days. We have talked between us because it's a different game of the other ones because of the fans going to the stadium. You have 50,000-60,000 people going to the stadium to see the best in the world. I think he deserves that for what he has conquered throughout the years. Having him as a teammate, being with him day to day, training with him, going out to dinner. It's one thing that I would never imagine, to be honest, and not even in my crazy dream. So yeah, I'm really happy for them to come to our city. Definitely tomorrow when I go to the hotel, say hi to them, say hi to a couple of colleagues that were there with me, and nothing. As I say, hopefully we can get the 3 points.
So it is. You kind of mentioned it there. It is twofold because not only do you have this event that Messi's coming, but this is a team that you played for, you had a lot of success with, you won a couple trophies with, and former teammates that you'll be seeing again. Like, for you, when you get out on that field Wednesday night, what do you expect your emotions to be?
No, it's going to be a completely different game. Obviously, I want to play against my old teammate, perform as the best I can do. Obviously, I can score for my team right now. That is New England. Get the 3 points for my teammates, for our city. And it's going to be obviously a special night, but I'm really optimistic of what we can do that day.
And this is ahead of really a bigger soccer event coming to Gillette next year, which is going to be the World Cup, and the gear up for that. Having just gotten here to Boston and you have the hype with this Messi game and the World Cup around the corner, what have your initial impressions been of the region and the soccer fans in the region, and I guess Revs fans even maybe that are outside of New England?
Yeah, I think it's great. Last week we had an event with our fans. I was surprised with the magnitude of the people that got into the stadium to get their T-shirt signed. I speak with a lot of them. They told me they follow since a long time ago. But you can see in the games that we have a lot of people. Obviously, we play in a stadium for almost 70,000 people. I know every game won't be like that, but you can see we get 15,000, 20,000, 25,000. Obviously, on Wednesday it's going to be a whole different story, but nothing. It makes me happy to have a team with a lot of people, a lot of followers. So it's a motivation,
We're talking to Revolution forward Leo Campana. Sorry about that, Leo Campana. About just the team where they're at going into this match with Messi on Wednesday. For you though, personally, how do you feel you fit in with this club? You're playing up there with Carlos Gil, who is a prolific scorer in his own right. Andrew Farrell, a long tenured player. How do you feel you fit in strategically, X's and O's wise, with this Revolution team?
Yeah, I think the team started from less to more, For me, it's been a difficult year because the first month I had a couple of injuries. I played 3 games, I lost 4. I went back, played 3 games, again got injured. So it's difficult to find again that level of, I would say, performance that you only can get without the games, with playing minutes on the field, But right now I feel really good. I think last game I did a really good game. The team played amazing. So obviously, as I say, we didn't get the result, but I'm really happy for the performance of the team, and I think we will do good. Right now, my mentality is to be healthy, to perform as I know I should, and obviously score. That it's why I'm here.
Do you feel like it's been easier to build chemistry with those other teammates now that you're healthy? Like you said, you missed some time, and how tough was it balancing both just injury rehab and then also getting used to playing with a new team?
Yeah, as I say, it's difficult because you are 3 weeks out, 1 month and a half out, and you lost the rhythm of the game, and you need again when you came back 2-3 games to get that sensation, the feeling of the ball when you are in front of the goal, to shoot, to get a pass. I know it's difficult. You just need minutes. Right now, I played since I came back from an injury 3 games, so I feel that Wednesday is going to be an important game for me.
Again, we're talking to Leo Campana of the New England Revolution, forward, first year with the team. Any message to the fans who are coming out to see you guys against Miami on Wednesday?
Yeah, I invite all the people from Boston, not only from Foxborough to go. It's going to be a party. We have this game once a year, so I think it's worth it to come to see us and to see the best in the history of soccer, as everybody knows. So invite them to come to join us for an incredible party, and to our really fans, to our fans, tell them that we're going to do everything to get the 3 points.
You heard it right there, Leo Campana. It's going to be a party Wednesday night at Gillette Stadium as Inter Miami CF comes in. Leo, thanks so much for taking the time to join us tonight, and best of luck on Wednesday.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Thank you.
Good luck on Wednesday night. Again, it's the Revs taking on Messi in Miami coming up on Wednesday night. Coming up here on this program, we're going to take a quick check of the headlines, 90 seconds, no commercials, and then 98.5thesportshub.com, Sports Hub Underground podcast. Matt Dahl is going to come in because I've been on like 4 shows in the last week, and I have not done nearly as much Bruins talk as I probably should have. I want to talk some hockey, so I had to go down the hall and get one of the Shug guys to come in. Dahl's going to come in, talk hockey with us for the next hour. You want to join us? 617-779-0985. Again, just headlines here, no commercials. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
From the Telfair Tire Studios, WBZ FM and HD1. It's not just the games. It's Toucher and Hardy, Zolak and Bertrand, Felger and Maz, Joe Murray. For Boston sports fans, it's 98.5, the Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station. Essential Sports Hub headline presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Red Sox and Rockies going at it in the first of 3 games at Fenway Park this week, and the Red Sox bats waking up in the bottom of the second, a 3-run frame, and the Red Sox now lead 3-1, looking to add more in the bottom of the third. The Red Sox will have a trio of players heading to the MLB All-Star Game next week. That's Garrett Crochet, Aroldis Chapman, and Alex Bregman. The Celtics made their trades that were initially reported last month official today, and that came with a bit of an update. The Drew Holiday deal is complete, but it's now an outright swap for Anthony Simons. The Celtics were originally reported to be getting 2 second-round picks in that deal. Those will no longer convey after a medical issue popped up in Holiday's workout with Portland, according to reports. Meanwhile, the Kristaps Porzingis deal, that was also made official. That stands as is as he heads to Atlanta. Elsewhere in the NBA, a 3-team trade this morning sent Norman Powell to the Heat and John Collins to the Clippers. Kevin Love dealt in that deal as well. He heads to Utah. And the Orlando Magic and star Paolo Banchero have reached an agreement on a 5-year maximum rookie contract extension that could be worth up to $287 million, according to ESPN. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Premier Basement Waterproofing. Now's the time for crawl space encapsulation. And don't forget to ask about the Santa Fe dehumidifier to keep humidity out this summer. 844-LIVE-DRY or premierbasement.net. It's game over for water. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 8:30.
To us, Boston pride runs deep.
I'm a Bostonian!
This is Boston's Home for Sports.
Bow, bow, bow!
98.5 The Sports Hub.
Why trade Trent Frederick? It's the same player. It's the same player. You know nothing about this guy, though. God, this is so annoying. Just when you think they're turning the page away from big and tough and all that and getting more skilled, which is what they need, what's Tanner Jeannot going to do? Is he going to punch the puck in the net? That's what you need. You don't need this player anymore. It's so annoying. 5 years for a guy that you don't really need.
The linguistic stylings of one Ty Anderson. Live reaction to Bruins free agency last week. So we had to go get one of the show guys. We've heard from Ty. So we got the other host of the Sports of Underground podcast and from 98.5thesportshub.com, Matt Dolloff, in studio with us for a whole hour. The next hour, we got Dolloff in the building. Dolloff, what's going on?
Good to see you, Bart. Thanks for having me.
Good
the
to
only
see
thing
you.
I didn't like about Ty's rant is that it took it all out of his system before we could do the Sports Hub Underground. So,
I was going to say, how are you? Be honest. Are you a little bit mad that wasn't from the podcast?
I was a little bit perturbed that all happened
That's
while
fair.
he was on, but I knew it was going to happen during Zone
Yeah.
Beetle. It was a great idea to have him on. That was a stroke of genius, whoever came up with that idea.
Yeah.
Put him on for that particular show. And, thank you to the Bruins for ruining Ty's day there.
Well, Skaz, I don't know if you cut that or somebody else cut that. That's the first time I've heard the clip without the intro where Beal tells him, like, they signed, or McCone tells him they signed Tanner Jeannot, and he goes, and you get that. It's so much better. He goes right into it like that. But that was Ty Anderson's reaction last week to free agency in particular. And look, you mentioned ruining Ty's day. To a certain point, I get it. Like, I can relate to that in that when you cover a team and you're going through the early stages of the offseason and really laying the foundation for what the upcoming season is going to be. And fans can probably relate to this too, but we deal with it professionally. That's your life for the next 9 months. And like Ty's reaction, that's what, like, this is the product I'm going to have to get people interested in for the next 9 months. Was your reaction, now you weren't on air, so I don't know if you were in your apartment yelling or anything like that. I don't know, maybe you were here. Were you as emotional as Ty was seeing what the Bruins did in free agency?
I wouldn't say so. I'm a little more measured emotionally,
Okay.
I would say.
Internally.
I tend to bottle it up and keep it inside.
Yeah.
The rage is turned inward, I would say. Ty, Ty's a great guy, but has a little bit of an edge to him.
Wears
in
it
a
on
good
his
way.
sleeve. Nothing wrong with
In
that.
a good, yeah, he wears it on his sleeve. That's what makes him great at radio, makes him great on the Sports of Underground. The Bruins do something he doesn't like, he's the absolute first person you should listen to, and that's why, I probably didn't have quite as emotional a reaction. Plus, I was listening live. I was here in the war room trying to get get the articles up and all that, so I had to sort of focus. I couldn't really get up and start breaking stuff in the office. I had to sort of focus and write. So it was good.
Come in, slap Ty around like that scene in Airplane.
Yeah, seriously, yeah. We just line up with like boxing gloves and a crowbar, and just that's what it felt like with the moves. Like each successive move, the Tanner Jeannot was like just the lady with the gun walking up to him. It was obviously a disappointing day for anyone that thought. Definitely, if you thought they were gonna make a big move, it was a disappointing day. I wasn't really expecting that. Ty actually sort of set the table. He's like, I wouldn't get too
I
excited.
think he told Beal, didn't he say like you're going to hate what they do today or something like that?
You're going to hate what they do. It's just going to be complimentary guys and short money, role players, energy guys, things like that. And they did a lot of that. It was obviously the Tanner Jeannot signing that sort of sent them over the edge because it's a 5-year deal.
I was going to say, like, it is, I guess, short money, 3.4 per year, but a 5-year deal feels like a significant contract, just relatively speaking.
Right, yeah. $3.4 million, with the cap going up isn't necessarily a huge investment year to year. But here's the thing that people might be forgetting. The cap's going up across the league. It's not going up for just the Boston Bruins. It's all relative. I wouldn't have made that long-term of an investment in a player like Tanner Jeannot. Ty and I both agreed if it was a 1 or 2 year deal for Tanner Jeannot, that would have been a lot more palatable. The kind of guy that any team could use if you want to be a winning team, a tough team, things like that. Tanner Jeannot's a solid addition. The 5-year thing, Barth, you said this is the next 9 months of our lives.
Yeah.
That deal makes it feel like this is going to be the next 5 years of our lives.
Sure.
That's the problem with the Tanner Jeannot signing is that Are they going to transition to being more of a speed skill team, which I think you need a lot more than what they've had in recent years to be a winning hockey team? And no, I don't want them to go entirely in the direction of speed and skill. You don't want to be all offense. You have to play some defense. You got to keep the puck out of the net at some point. But it feels like that's what the Bruins want to be. They just want to be the team that's tough to play against. We're going to play tight defense. We're going to have great goaltending. A lot is going to be riding on Jeremy Swayman to come in here, have a full camp, and have a huge bounce-back year. He's probably going to have a huge year for them to, get back into the playoffs with a quick one-year turnaround. The free agent signings make it feel like this is more of like a bridge year. Like not necessarily like this is a big, long rebuild, but all the other guys they signed 1 or 2 year deals.
Yeah.
Feels like they're sort of bridging the gap between now and when all these prospects they have and draft picks are finally ready to come in. Like, I'm not saying you got to put James Higgins in the lineup next season. Like,
right.
He needs time to develop. Most draft picks do.
Well, doesn't that feel almost a little Red Soxian? Isn't this what the Red Sox spent the last 5 years doing? Marcelo Mayer, Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell. They're coming. The South Park episode of J.R.R. Tolkien, they're on their way. They're coming, I promise. They're almost here. And it's like, but can you be competitive while we wait? No, the kids will be here soon. Just focus on the kids. And you mentioned the need for speed and skill, and they did address that in the draft, and I want to get to that. But in Ty's rant, the one word he used that I read that resonated with me the most,
punch.
Besides that's a great line. What's he going to do? Punch the puck in the net. I had Connor Ryan on that night, and poor Connor, I opened up, I think, asking him, how many pucks is James Higgins going to punch in the net? And I don't think he knew how to answer. But the word that really resonated with me was annoying, because I want my hockey team to play with edge. Maybe I'm old school in that. I want them to crack skulls. I want them to be a physical presence. I want them to beat the other team up. I want guys to not enjoy playing against them. I don't want like a pure speed and skill team. I like having players like Sean Corrali and Tanner Jeannot on my hockey team in general. But I don't want it to be the whole hockey team, right? There's a balance, everything in moderation. And so it's not, I don't necessarily hate any of the individual signings. Jeannot in a bubble is fine. I have no problem with them signing a player like that. Sean Corrali in a bubble is fine. I have no problem with them signing a player like that. But when you put them all on top of each other and there's really nothing else, it is, again, to use Ty's word, annoying. And Don Sweeney talked about wanting to be tougher, right? And I think he said everybody stands a little taller when we have guys like that on the ice. Nikita Zadorov's still on this team, right? Mm-hmm. Mark Kasterlik's still on this team, right?
He is.
Like, did they not have that presence before? Do they maybe not think those guys are as tough? So that's what I keep coming back to. It's just like, I don't hate the individual signings. The overall approach is annoying.
Yeah, I think it was Elliot Friedman said on 32 Thoughts today that they signed Tanner Jeannot in part because he can now be the enforcer of the team, and he can take that burden off guys like Zadorov and Kastelik. And, like, not that I don't want Kastelik fighting, but hasn't he had concussions, I believe? He's had issues with that, so I think they want to take that off his plate. And they want Zadorov, I think, to focus on just playing defense.
Just be more of a featured player.
Just police the defensive zone, hit people. He's going to keep hitting people. Yeah. But I think if he can, stay focused on playing within the system and just playing a strong defensive game, policing, the net front area, clearing bodies out, giving Jeremy Swayman better looks at the puck, I think that'll go a long way where he doesn't have to feel like he has to be the guy to sort of answer the bell when it comes time to, drop the gloves or, just police the game and protect your teammates. I think Tanner Jeannot is going to do that.
Yeah.
It's not a personal thing against Tanner Jeannot.
No, I have no doubt. What he does well. But what he does is not necessarily what the Bruins' biggest need was. And that's what kills you is it's speed and skill. And what was crazy is that you look at their approach in the draft, putting aside where all the players grew up and where they went to college and what conference they played in. It felt like they added speed and skill in the draft. So you look at that and you think, is there a change in philosophy coming? Don Sweeney comes back after this rough year, still has his job, right? The front office remains intact. And it was, something's got to change. Something's got to change. And they have that draft. And it's like, okay, stylistically, this looks a little different. And then it's that hard left turn back into what they've been in free agency. Did the draft surprise you? Did free agency going the way it did after the draft surprise you? Like, how do you put those two approaches together? Because it feels like they took a very different approach to free agency in the draft.
The draft surprised me because this has long been their approach. We want to play a tough game, two-way game. We want to be stout defensively. That's been their identity for a while, and that's, I think, why they brought in Marco Sturm. Don Sweeney said in that April press conference, that wonderful press conference they had at TD Garden, that you look at the LA Kings, like he basically said we want to be like the LA Kings. And like, what have the LA Kings really accomplished, in recent years? They've been a good defensive team. They got really great goaltending this past year out of Darcy Kemper, one of the best years of his career. And they snuck into the playoffs, and I picked them to beat Edmonton. That would have been an upset in the first round, but lo and behold, the team with the skill guys, beats out the defensive team. And so that's how it went, and so that's why the draft sort of surprised me. The speed and skill thing feels like a long-term play for the Bruins. It feels like that's why they brought in all these guys, Jeannot aside, like the guys like Michael Eyssimont. They brought Sean Corrali back. Those are short-term bridge guys where they're going to give the speed and skill guys time to develop. Maybe we'll see them sprinkled in at some point this season. I'm less confident in that based on all these signings they made. But this is definitely, they want to be that tough to play against team. And like they got a long way to go toward proving that they can be a skill team or at least have enough skill to win. I think they want to be great defensively and in goal and then have enough skill to win. Like I feel like that's what they want to be. And you don't want to be a pure speed and skill team. You want to be able to do everything.
Yep.
It's tough to compare them to, the Florida Panthers because Panthers are kind of a unique case. The Bill Zito's done an amazing job putting that team together, but they're top six.
You mean they're not just bullying everybody in a Stanley Cups?
No.
They actually have good players too?
No, that is inaccurate. Their top six forwards, the driving force of their team, they're all pretty much all-around guys. They can all skate. They all have skill. They all forecheck. They're all unafraid to play that two-way game defensively. Like, it's fine to strive to be that. They're now a multiple Stanley Cup winner. They're going for the dynasty with Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, all those guys staying. But I think for the Bruins, I think their best course of action is to be able to sprinkle in the skill guys with the tough guys. Don Sweeney himself said Tanner Jeannot, one of his functions is going to be to, I think, create breathing room is how he put it.
Yeah, man, everybody stands taller. That's the quote I keep going back to.
Yeah, I think the idea there is that Tanner Jeannot is going to be able to free up space for, a smaller, skill-minded line mate. The thing is, I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it with this GM and especially this head coach. Like, they still want them to play within structure, play within the system, play the way we want them to play. They've had trouble developing players and maybe taking too long, overcooking prospects is how I put it, because they're waiting for them to become this perfect all-around player, and it's like, you're not always going to get guys like that. You have to sprinkle in guys that can score at some point because, being a great defensive team, which I think they have a chance to be with all they've invested in the defense and just guys coming back and playing better than they did last year on that end of the ice, I feel like there's too low of a ceiling for that. And I don't know that this team has a high enough floor to be confident that they're really going to get back to the playoffs. Like, if Jeremy Swayman sucks again, Barth, they're going to suck again. That's the worry that I have.
Doesn't that kind of, I don't know, not to cross sports, isn't that kind of like, well, if Drake May doesn't take the year two leap, the Patriots are going to be bad again? Isn't that kind of just like baked in?
Kind of, yeah, but like a quarterback is more important in football than a goaltender is in hockey. But for the Bruins, I think it might be an apt comparison because there's so much riding specifically on Swayman and playing better at that end of the ice. Like, I think that's not a bad comparison for this particular team.
When you invest that much money in a guy, I understand expecting him to be a cornerstone. I don't think that's an unfair expectation, just like we talked about with Rafael Devers. Like, there's that much money invested in you. The expectations are going to be a little higher than the average player. I don't think that's unfair.
Yeah, no, he's got to be a top 10.
Right, Swayman has to live up to that. But you mentioned before that the overcooking of the prospects, and it seems like they're trying to set this up for some of the younger guys to maybe slot in. Who, when, where? I want to pick your brain on some of these younger guys. Not just James Hagens, not even just the draft picks they had this year. Some of the other guys that have been in the pipeline, some names we've maybe heard the last few years. Can they make an impact this year on the Boston Bruins? We'll discuss that with Matt Dolloff next here on the Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.5. You're listening to Joe Murray.
projected line charts right now, it's not a lot of youth in there. Like, we know James Higgins is going back to BC, and that's probably the right move, right, for him to get another college year. So
I think so, yeah. Give him one more year.
We can talk about when we're going to see him, but Fabian Lysell right now not slotting in. Fraser Minton right now not slotting in. Merkulov, who was up here last year, he's going to be competing for a spot. Even a guy like Mason Lowry, he's just played one full season. If they're going to surprise people, it's going to be these younger players taking that next step. So from those guys I've mentioned, is maybe somebody else. Like, if you were to do a Bruins 4 under 24, right? That kind of thing. Who are the young guys that you're looking at to make an impact this year? And are you worried that maybe some of the guys that could make that impact might be buried?
Unfortunately, 4 players for next season sounds a little high to me, Barth.
I mean, I just gave you a couple names. So you think we might not even see some of those guys?
The next season?
Yeah, like this upcoming season.
I'm not sure about Fabian Lysell at all. Like, that's a guy that struggled to crack the NHL lineup, and I know he came up late last year after the trade deadline, and he had his moments. But that's a guy I point to as a guy that they've overcooked and waited too long and waited for him to sort of become this perfect like all-around player that can do everything. Like, just let him get out there and skate and shoot the puck a little bit. And he showed a little more tenacity, I thought, than I was expecting, getting in there on the forecheck. And you talk about being hard to play against. Like, he's kind of hard to play against on offense. You know, he puts a lot of pressure on you. And so he's a guy I'd love to see in the NHL. I just don't see him as, he's not a bottom 6 player. He'd have to be in your top 6. And so right now I got it as Geeky, Lindholm, Pasternak, first line.
Yeah.
Second line, Pavel Zacha, Casey Middlestat, and Victor Arvidsson, the guy they traded for that wasn't a free agent signing. And so it feels like the top 6 is all clogged up with those guys. And, like, you know, some of it you understand, but it's going to have to be in the bottom 6 for guys to come in. And I don't know if you mentioned Matthew Poitras. He's still
so I was going to ask you about him too. Yeah,
he's a guy that I feel like he's going to have to convert to right wing at some point because he's just so undersized to play center. And it just feels like he doesn't fit in, sort of the hierarchy of center, at least for this team right now. Maybe they could trade him somewhere where they think they could use him at center. But the guys you mentioned, I think Fraser Minton has a good chance to come up and make an impact next year. I think he could be your third line center.
Why is that? What does he do? What does he bring?
Because he plays that sort of all around game. I think Sweeney compared him to Charlie Coyle when they brought him in, and so like he could play a 200-foot game. He's not afraid to sort of muck it up. He's not afraid to. He went to the front of the net a lot and scored a couple goals that way down at the end of the year last year, and so that was a good sign. And so he has that sort of NHL-ready game, the kind of game that the Bruins like. And so that's a guy that I feel like could come up next year and actually, go into the lineup and do a lot of the things that they want everyone to do, even if it's your first year, second year in the league. They still want you to play that responsible 200-foot game, which I know it gets him in trouble with prospects and development and all that, but Minton can do that. Another guy, I don't know if you actually mentioned him, but Marat Hustadinov.
I did not.
Who also came over here in the trade deadline last year, and they also re-signed. He's another guy who's a little small to play center. He came into the league as a center prospect, but he played more wing down the stretch of the season. This is a good, smart player. In Minnesota, they played him a lot in the defensive zone. And so I think that sort of led to, that was why he didn't score much. But he's got a little bit of speed and skill, and I think he can also play a two-way game, and he can do it on the wing. And so I would love to see a Hustadinov Minton third line next year.
Okay.
That is sort of like the upper end of my ambition for the team. Maybe Matthew Poitras could slide over to right wing, and you got a nice third line of young up-and-coming players. But that, to me, is the best hope. I would love to see Fabian Lysell get another crack at the NHL, and they've said it for like 5 years now, ever since they drafted him, however long it's been. Oh, they're going to have a chance to compete. They're going to have a chance to get in the lineup here, and then it never happens.
You think they're going to open up with those veterans in the lineup? And
I think Terry Janot is on your third line. I think Michael Asamont, another guy they signed, he could be a fourth line guy. Sean Corrali is an NHL player. Like, I just feel like they're all clogged up down there.
There was another guy they signed you were high on. You wrote a column about it. I can't remember his name.
Matej Blumel.
Yeah.
The kid they signed from the Dallas Stars. I'm glad you brought him up. I can't believe I didn't even think of him. That's a guy I could see cracking the bottom six this coming year. David Pastrnak called him, a fellow countryman from Czech Republic, Czechia, whatever it's called now. He recruited him, basically. He said that we'd love to have you. And this is a guy that he's been lighting it up in the AHL. And in the Dallas Stars organization, they're pretty stacked at the wing spots. There wasn't really a spot for him. And so, look, if Blumel was this big hidden gem diamond in the rough, he probably wouldn't have left Dallas.
Right.
Dallas would have kept him. But can he come in and be, a third line, maybe middle six type of energy forward who can score a little bit? Like, I think he has a chance to be that guy. So that's another one. That's a good one that he's actually been in, at least NHL organizations for a few years.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of AHL time, so he might spend a lot of time in Providence too. But that's the one signing out of all those free agents that actually has me pretty intrigued about the upside there.
So that's just the forwards. Any hope for any sort of young up-and-comer on defense?
Not yet.
No,
not yet. I think.
What would a next step look like for Mason Lillard? Do you think he can get there? Because he now has a full season under his belt.
Yeah, well, I think working with Marco Sturm could help Lowry a bit. He has nowhere to go but up in terms of his plus minus.
Right.
Everyone's big on his minus 45 or whatever he was last year. It was ugly.
I mean, that's not good.
And look, there's a reason. Look, a guy with his size and offensive skill set, if he were a good in the defensive end, that's like a top 10 draft pick. There's a reason he fell to the 60th pick or whatever it was. So I don't think he's ever going to be great in the defensive end, but if he can get up to a level of being average, serviceable, and then his skill takes another step forward, he starts to contribute on the power play a little bit. He could be a good, top four defenseman if he puts that all together. And I think if he can take the coaching from Marco Sturm and Sturm can sort of tap into him and get him to play more of a two-way, 200-foot type of game, maybe they unlock something there and, he takes a step forward. That could make a big difference for him. I think other than him, you got Hampus Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov on the left side. So the left side's pretty much locked in. Right side, you got McAvoy, you have Henry Jokiharju, and you have Andrew Peeke. And I just don't see a right-shot defenseman in the organization that's really ready to sort of seize the opportunity there. So I feel like those six guys that I just mentioned, I think that's your defense.
That's pretty chalk. There's not a ton of competition at that spot.
I think the question is just who's paired with who. I think that's what we're looking at.
And then, like you said, it all comes down to the goalie. What do they get out of the goalie? What do they get out of Jeremy Swayman next year? Are you still a believer in Jeremy Swayman? Don't answer yet. Quick check of the headlines. Then Matt Dolloff will answer that question next. Here it's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
Sports Hub headlines presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Red Sox playing the first game of a 3-game set against the Colorado Rockies at Fenway Park tonight. The Red Sox, thanks to a 3-run bottom of the second lead, 3-1. They'll also have 3 All-Stars appearing in the MLB All-Star Game next week. That was announced last night. Garrett Crochet, Aroldis Chapman, and Alex Bregman will represent the team in Atlanta. The Celtics had their trades that were reported last month made official today. With a change, it was initially reported that the Celtics would get 2 second-round picks back with Anthony Simons for Drew Holiday in that deal with Portland. The second-round picks no longer a part of the package after something came up during Holiday's physical. Meanwhile, the Kristaps Porzingis trade, that's also official, and that one is as reported with Porzingis going to Atlanta. Elsewhere in the NBA, there was a 3-team trade this morning. That sent Norman Powell to the Miami Heat and John Collins to the Los Angeles Clippers. Kevin Love moved in that deal as well. He goes to the Utah Jazz and is expected to be bought out. And the Orlando Magic and star Paolo Banchero have reached an agreement on a 5-year maximum rookie contract extension that could reach $287 million. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by John Sewer and Drain Cleaning, keeping drains flowing for homes and businesses in the greater Boston area since 1976. Go to johnsewer.com. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 9 o'clock.
More Joe Murray coming up on the Sports Hub.
You've got to try the new burgers at the Nines. Bigger, bolder, and beefier. Our half-pound, 100% American Angus beef is sure to please. Try the new bourbon onion burger and get more ang for your buck. You gotta love the Nines.
feel that? That's not a breeze. It's a mosquito flyby. And ticks, they're already camped out in your yard like it's training camp. Ants, they're having a block party in your kitchen. Look, bad coaching makes me mad, but bugs and rodents taking over my yard, unacceptable. You need my friends at Burgess Pest. I've used Burgess for years. They're local, fast, and with almost 100 years of experience, they know how to solve your pest problem quickly. No shortcuts, no misses, just results. Ticks, termites, mosquitoes, ants, gone with Burgess Pest. Go to burgesspest.com to learn more. Built for New England, built to stop bugs.
When you own your own business, you own every decision. Catch the red eye or take the 6 a.m.
Make a new hire or promote internally.
Celebrate a win with the toast at the gate or unwind at the lounge. Big props to this team. Some decisions are a win-win. Like earning 8 times points on Chase Travel. Introducing Chase Sapphire Reserve for Business. With $2,500 in annual value, it's the business card that gives back all you put in. Visit chase.com/reserve business to learn more. Cards issued by JPMorgan Chase Bank and a member FDIC. Subject to credit approval. Terms apply.
Summer is hot, sticky, and buggy. But Modelo is cold, crisp, and smooth. When you're sweating through your shirt and the beach is mad crowded, the lime and salt flavors of a Modelo Chelada hit just right. When the weather's perfect but you're still at work, it's time to clock out and stock up on Modelo. Drink responsibly. Beer and flavored beer imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois.
Hi, this is Ryan Williams with 128 Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electric, the official home service provider of the Boston Red Sox. With spring baseball in the air, it's time to start thinking about your air conditioning.
Flat out said, like, I deserve to play more. his play has to back that up as well. So they're supportive, they're competitive, and they're supportive in the same regard. So hopefully they've learned and they're moving forward, but they want them to stay competitive and stay connected in that regard. And I want Michael to realize, if he's good enough to play, he should play.
What is going to happen with Jeremy Swayman? Is Jeremy Swayman, Matt, it's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray. Matt Dolloff's here, 98.5 The Sports Hub Underground podcast with Ty Anderson. Injury situations aside, because I think the biggest what if in Boston sports right now is, it's not a what if, it's what is. What is Jason Tatum going to look like when he comes back off the Achilles? Is Jeremy Swayman like the biggest what if or question mark or fulcrum point in Boston sports right now? Like, what is Jeremy Swayman's 2025-2026 season?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I don't know.
I guess maybe Drake May, I guess, but it's not a what if. I'm trying to think of, what Skaz, maybe you can help me out.
Yeah, it's not a question mark because I think he's a good player. I think it's how much of an impact is he going to make? I feel like they're putting a lot of eggs in that basket.
Well,
but is it going to be enough to get him back to the playoffs? I'm not sure of that.
He's a talented player, but it's also a very mental position, and you have a year like that. How confident are you that he can get not close, but get back to where he was 2 years ago when he earned that big contract?
Oh, I think he can get back to that level.
Yeah.
I just think, even if he is really good next year, they're still going to struggle to score. And I just think that's a team that just barely sneaks into the playoffs. That's the best case scenario.
Do you worry about that maybe compounding for him? He's trying to have this bounce back season, and is there an element of, I'm playing well, we're still not winning, and then that just makes it tougher as he tries to bounce back?
I don't view Swayman as that kind of guy.
Okay.
I think he's very confident in himself. And I feel like it comes out the way he talks. He has a good, positive outlook, and I know that irks people around here.
Well, I was going to say,
because we are the fellowship of the miserable. I understand.
Last year,
goalies are odd cats, so it's I expect him to sort of rub people the wrong way with the way he talks.
Yeah,
but I think he has a quiet confidence about himself.
Last year, I think he caught some heat. I think some of it warranted, some of it not. And it seemed like there were some rumblings that maybe even in the locker room that he was a little insulated, and it was Jeremy Swayman in the Jeremy Swayman box, and there wasn't much paid attention to what was going on outside of that. One, do you think that's a fair read? And two, if it is, could that maybe be something that even benefits him this year, given what his surroundings might look like?
It's a fair read, but that's goalies. I mean, name a goalie that's everyone talks about. He's just one of the guys. He's the leader of the team. He's a great, that.
Fair.
They're all sort of off to the side, their own self-contained thing. They could play perfect defense and give him a perfect look at the puck. If he doesn't get his glove up in time, it goes in the net, that's pretty much all on the goalie. And so I think around here we tend to sort of overblame the goalie.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, I think
Tuukka Rask wasn't the problem.
Pretty much every time if the puck goes in, it's the goalie's fault. A lot of people act like that. If it goes in, it's the goalie's fault. And it's just hockey's just not that simple. You have to sort of
sometimes
look
it is, but not always.
Well, sometimes the goalie gives up a soft goal. That's not every time.
Right.
The great goal. Every goalie gives up goals sometimes. You're not done. I'm trying to think of another goalie. Even Connor Hellebuck, who won the freaking Hart Trophy.
Yeah,
he gave up some goals.
Tim Thomas let 2-3 through in that playoff run.
Tim Thomas was another one he pretty much had his own bunker in the locker room. He wasn't one of the guys, but he obviously stepped up in a major way, a historic way. And I don't know that Swayman could do that, but I have confidence that he can bounce back and be close to what he was before he signed the contract. The whole contract thing, I know we're going to keep talking about it because it's such a long deal, and it's a big money contract, at least at the time. We'll see how it ages. Cap going up, other goalies signing contracts.
They usually age pretty well for the team.
Thatcher Demko in Vancouver, I would take Swayman over Thatcher Demko. I think Demko is making $8.5 million now on his extension. So I try not to overreact to the overpaying of goaltenders because I feel like I'd like to have stability there. I don't know that Swayman gives you that, but I think just pulling random guys off the street is not really an apt strategy for that position either.
Goalie by game.
And he just exactly. And he just happened to get really hot at the exact perfect time, and the Bruins pretty much had no choice at that point. It got too late for them to really do anything other than, pay him. I feel like they almost waited too long. And so, I get it. People say, well, no, they could have traded him. It's like, you drafted, developed the guy. They believe in that position. You're not going to get all the way to that point and then just trade him. I just didn't think that was ever going to be a thing. And so I think Swayman, played his ass off in that playoff run. I know the second round, but he played great.
Yes, he did.
And so it was just really tough timing on that. And so don't love overpaying for a goalie necessarily, but I just feel like that just sort of is what it is with the timing and all that.
Even with that belief in him, and I don't mean to say that like you're wrong to believe in him, but with that belief in him, do you still think maybe it's been talked about he should be more of a platoon than a workhorse, and maybe you give Korpisalo a little more during the regular season so Swayman can be a little more rested and a little more fresh when he is up?
That's another thing that just sort of is what it is. Like the era of the workhorse goalie isn't really a thing anymore. And you take a guy like Connor Hellebuck, he always fizzles out in the playoffs, and he's always starting, most games in the season. I feel like you almost have to do sort of a platoon. And obviously Swayman's going to be your starter compared to a guy like Jonas Korpisalo or Michael DiPietro, who they re-signed this year, whoever ends up the backup there. He's going to start the majority of the games, but you kind of have to ease the workload if you wanted to be fresh in the play. If you have any ambition of getting back to the playoffs, you have to sort of keep them fresh. I feel like that's a thing for pretty much every team, every goalie. And so I don't know that Jonas Korpisalo is good enough to really pick up the slack in the extra games he's going to play. And this is maybe where Marco Sturm and the improved defensive system might come into play. And I get it. You get to that point well, then why are you paying the goalie so much?
Well, you already paid him. You can't go back and unpay him. So we
can't change the past, but we can complain about it, Barth.
We can, but so this is where, to cross sports, I know, but when Mike Onwenu, when they gave him that big contract and they said they signed him as a tackle and then it clearly wasn't working a tackle, I got so annoyed when people were, I'd say, well, Movement's had a guard, he can play a guard. Well, no, they gave him the big contract. You're paying him all that money. So you're just fine with him sucking? You're just fine with having a bad tackle? You invested all the money. And yeah, you can see, if you want to argue whether or not they should or shouldn't have signed the contract, I guess we can have that discussion. But you don't want to just sit there and be like, well, we gave him a bad contract, so we have to see him suck because the money dictates it, right? If you can get more out of him, if you can get more out of the contract, even if it's not what you thought it originally was, why not maximize the player? It's too late. You signed the deal. There's no going back. The player's on your roster. To me, maximize what you can get from him. If that means Swayman's playing a little less in the regular season and that, how much he's making per start goes up, I'd rather that than him just allow a bunch of goals and be bad.
No, yeah, of course. And they're going to play tighter defense, even if everyone doesn't play up to the level that you want. Like the system, I do have confidence in Marco Sturm as a head coach. It feels like he just has a clue, right? He feels like he knows what he's doing. I know he's a first-time head coach.
Yeah, but he's a former player. He feels more like a finger on the pulse kind of guy.
Yeah, I know he's a first-time head coach, and there'll probably be growing pains there. But I do have confidence in the defensive aspect of it and the fact that they're going to make life easier for the goaltenders. And Swayman's going to come back and have a full training camp, which I know is a big deal for them. It is a big deal. Not that they're making a big deal. It is. It obviously turned out to be a big deal.
You look at what happened last year. How can you not say it's a big deal?
Right. He missed pretty much all training camp. Finally signed that contract. There was something going on in the locker room, and I feel like they've sort of cleaned that out. Trading Brad Marchand was a part of that. And they're going to have a new captain this year. I would vote David Pastrnak to be the captain. And so they're finally turning toward this new era, and Swayman's going to be a huge part of that, whether people like it or not. And look, if someone comes calling, Edmonton, someone calls and says, we want Jeremy Swayman, they should obviously listen, see what they can get back. But I'm not looking to just dump him. He's a good player.
Sure.
He's a good goalie. And, I get it, the argument isn't necessarily, is Jeremy Swayman overpaid? It's that, do you even want to pay that much for a goalie in the first place? And so, to me, I'd probably prefer a little bit less money for just a good, solid starter. You don't necessarily need the Vezina guy, the elite top-end goalie, to win a Stanley Cup. I feel like you need to have more balance. You don't want to be too goalie-centric. I get that.
Yep.
But right now, like they're going to have to depend on him. And so you really hope he comes back, has a good camp, stays healthy, all that, and gets back to the level of 2 years ago because they're really going to need it if they want to make the playoffs. Don Sweeney might need it.
I think more than might.
Yeah.
Might be underselling it there. He is Matt Dolloff, 985sportshub.com, Sports Hub Underground podcast. We're paying you for the full hour. You want to stick around for In or Out?
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to do In or Out next with Matt Dolloff. Here it's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray.
What's it gonna be, McFly? Are you in or out?
Back here on the Sports Hub, Alex Barth in for Joe Murray tonight. Matt Dolloff alongside from 98.5thesportshub.com. Talk some Bruins. If you missed any of that and you want to hear Matt's takes on the Bruins, one, you can check out Sports Hub Underground podcast, but also we're going to throw those segments up on the Sports Hub YouTube channel. So you don't have to go through the whole 4-hour stream of the show. We appreciate it if you do. But if you just want the Bruins content, we'll have Matt talking Bruins up on the YouTube channel. It'll be up relatively soon. You'll be able to get it by tomorrow morning for the ride-in. But it is time for In or Out. Matt's going to stick around, do some In or Out with us. Skaz, what do you got for us tonight?
Gentlemen, a Monday night edition of In or Out.
It is.
It's a holiday week-ish. Coming off holiday week, it's rumor season. Especially in one league, it feels like the NBA loves off-season rumors. We had Kevin Durant famously on the 4th of July post his what was that? The Players Tribune or whatever that used to be called? Yeah. Well, another rumor is coming out all around the NBA. Gentlemen, are we in or out on LeBron James heading back to Cleveland?
I don't even care. I know I'm supposed to answer. I guess out because it's going to be a whole thing that's going to be annoying. Like, of course he's going to go back to Cleveland to retire. Of course he is. But I tell me, Skaz, if I'm allowed to do this or not. I don't care. Wherever he does the Swan song, it's going to be too much.
Can I have a criteria? Like, is he being traded to Cleveland?
That's the rumor, I guess, or the report. Apparently, he's been working out at the Cavs facility, and he was posting videos of himself golfing with a "I'm coming home" hat in Cleveland or something. NBA Twitter is there's rumors every day, but that is the rumor.
LeBron strikes me as a guy like you just put anything in front of him and he'll read it, like Ron Burgundy.
Yeah,
go after yourself, San Diego. That. Like just read this, LeBron. I'm coming home. Wait, what? I'm in on it if like they don't have to trade the whole team to get LeBron. If it's LeBron, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, and like they actually got a legit chance to go for it, that would be fun. I'd be in on that.
LeBron going for a title in his final season would be fun to watch.
Is Bronny part of the trade?
Probably.
Out.
Yeah.
Out
yeah,
if Bronny's going
He
there.
would be. Yeah, of course he... Well, if he's not, the Lakers are just going to cut him and the Cavs are going to sign him. One way or another, he's going where LeBron goes.
Yeah, no, he would be part of that.
Yeah.
All right, well, it is the Joe Show, so we have to mix some food in or out. And I saw this on Twitter earlier today, and it almost stopped me in my tracks. But Cinnamon Toast Crunch is releasing a bacon flavor breakfast cereal available tomorrow at Walmart. Gentlemen, are we in or out on a Cinnamon Toast Crunch bacon flavored cereal?
So, is it like cinnamon and bacon?
I'm looking at the package. It appears...
I'm going to pull this up.
Yes.
It has like the texture of a Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but it tastes like bacon.
Yes, it looks just like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, but apparently it is bacon flavored.
Out on bacon, anything that's not just bacon. Like, just eat bacon.
Out.
At that point.
Yeah, I like the idea.
What are we doing?
I can't imagine the execution is good. They did have Cinnamon Toast Crunch dusted bacon a few years ago. I remember
on that as well, though. Yeah,
a piece of bacon with cinnamon on it sounds pretty good. I don't know,
not too much, but just the right
a little
amount
bit.
is very good. You know what I am in on? 100% French Toast Crunch.
Oh yeah,
French Toast Crunch is elite. It's a shame they ever got rid of it.
They brought it back. I think
they did bring it back.
Yeah.
They should have never gotten rid of it. That is an S tier cereal.
This is one of my hot takes for breakfast. Yeah. French toast greater than pancakes and waffles. I like a French toast.
Homemade, yes. If I'm like out at a diner, I'm going pancakes.
Pancakes are predictable, so I understand that.
Homemade French toast is hard to touch, but you get some like you get them at a place where they're flapjacks and not pancakes. You're getting good food.
I had a buddy that used to put peanut butter on his French toast. In or out on that?
Why? Wait, that you a friend?
Yes. No, I'm not a. I mean, if I did it, I would tell you, but peanut butter.
No,
on
I'm
French
saying
toast?
like you stayed friends with this. lunatic?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't talked to him in a while, but yeah,
it's probably for the best. Out.
I like peanut butter, but I'm out on it.
Yeah, I like peanut butter, not on French toast. Honey on French toast is good.
Yeah,
but not peanut butter.
All right, sticking with breakfast foods, McDonald's is bringing back their iconic muffin with a long-awaited twist. Now available, the Spicy McMuffin breakfast sandwich. Are we in or out on a Spicy McMuffin breakfast sandwich?
I'm out.
Out on spicy breakfast.
Yeah, I'm not a big spicy. Maybe a little red pepper flakes on some home fries is pretty much it. Trying to ease into my day. I don't need to blow my sinuses out at 8 in the morning.
To blow something else out. I've had breakfast burritos before, but like you don't want to go over the top with that. Not first thing in the morning. That's crazy.
Yeah, no. Out on that.
All right, gentlemen. Charles Entertainment Cheese, Chuck E. Cheese, is relaunching an arcade for adults called Chuck's Arcade. Are we in or out on Chuck's Arcade?
I'm so in on the adult arcade. I had this. I don't know if people who grew up near where I grew up would know what the Dream Machine is at the Walpole Mall.
Oh, yeah.
They should have turned that over for the clientele that used to go there and just sold booze there. I'm very in. Also, if you know the history of Chuck E. Cheese, which there's a really good John Oliver piece online about it, this is basically what Chuck E. Cheese was always supposed to be. Like, Chuck E. Cheese... Go look up the history of Chuck E. Cheese. I promise you it's not what you think it is. It's 100% not. This is more Chuck E. Cheese than Chuck E. Cheese ever was. In on the adult arcade, in on Chuck E. Cheese getting back to his roots.
100% in on that. Brilliant idea for Chuck E. Cheese to evolve like that because kids don't really do Chuck E. Cheese like that anymore.
Well, do you remember when they were like selling pizza during the pandemic on DoorDash as Pasquale's Pizza?
No.
They were acting like they were, because remember there was like support local restaurants and all that? Yeah. So they were listing themselves on like Uber Eats and DoorDash as a local pizza place called Pasquale's Pizza. And people found out because they tasted the pizza and then they were like calling DoorDash, like the driver, and being like, "Did you get this from a Chuck E. Cheese?"
Oh my God.
Have you ever seen like the history of Chuck E. Cheese? Have you looked into this?
You
would enjoy this.
I feel like I've seen the John Oliver thing, but I don't really remember any of it.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. The guy who founded it is like such a lunatic. Nolan Bushnell. He was an innovator.
Well, I'm in on the idea of changing it. I do like an arcade.
Yeah.
And I had the Dream Machine at the old Methuen Mall too.
I had no idea it was a chain.
Yeah.
I just knew the one at the Walpole Mall. Good times there. And then you'd go to Papa Gino's or Old Country Buffet. That was the birthday party.
Yep.
That was everybody's birthday party.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen, coming off the holiday, we all watched Joey Chestnut dominate in his return to the hot dog eating competition. Gentlemen, are we in or out on Joey Chestnut being underappreciated?
He's one of the GOATs. I'm in on him being underappreciated. I'm out on him not being appreciated enough. 17-time champion, went away, didn't bother him. Somebody tried to tell me, because I'm watching with people on the 4th of July, somebody tried to tell me, no, you don't understand. Kobayashi's actually the GOAT. It's just a different era. I'm sorry. Joe Montana the GOAT? Because it was a different era? We're talking about Babe Ruth here? We're going to put Babe Ruth up against Shohei Ohtani? No. Joey Chestnut is the GOAT, and he is underappreciated.
Out on him being underappreciated. You eat hot dogs. The fact that we're talking about you at all
But he doesn't
just
eat hot dogs. He eats hot dogs better than any other person on the planet. I think if you're, whatever your field is, if you're at that apex of it, you should be appreciated.
Well, he is appreciated. The fact that he gets the publicity he gets. He's on ESPN and stuff like that.
Well, that's like, do you know they have a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet world championship? It's on ESPN.
See, now that's underappreciated.
If you're that good at something, I'm interested. Anybody who's mastered a craft to that level, even if it's maybe not a craft that I myself am interested in, just seeing people be that great at something interests me.
See, I think there's probably so many other like eating contests, eating feats that go completely unnoticed or unappreciated or whatever, where Joey Chestnut is considered like the GOAT, the king. That's why I think he's perfectly appreciated.
I should make you stay in here another hour. We did on Saturday, myself and George Bilecki. It's a league that organizes that, Major League Eating. They have all of their records up on their website, and we were sitting there going through them and guessing.
Chestnut's got like 60 of them, right, or something like that.
So okay, I'll give you one. For instance, I won't make you do all of them, but I'll give you one before you leave. October 5th, 2013, Joey Chestnut set the record for eating the most hard-boiled eggs in 8 minutes. You want to guess the number? Skaz, I'll throw this up to you,
minutes, too. 60.
I was going to say like 50, so we're in the ballpark.
141.
Imagine sitting next to that guy on a plane.
I should have guessed over 100.
Those records are all there. 34 large cannolis in 6 minutes. 70 glazed donuts in 8 minutes.
Oh, my God.
Four 32-ounce bowls of mayonnaise in 8 minutes.
Oh, now that, all right. I want to see someone die on TV doing this. I remember that Simpsons episode where the guy eats the 72-ounce steak?
Oh, yeah. Big Red.
He
right?
looks all proud of himself, then he just go up to him. This man's dead. He's just sitting there dead.
The records are all there to be found. Which proves my point. People are not appreciated enough. It's all right there. You can go find it. Nobody's gone to look.
Fair enough.
53 Taco Bell tacos in 10 minutes. That's a Joey Chestnut record. Matt Dolloff, 985thesportshub.com, Sports Hub Underground. Here's your big three for your next podcast. Big three major league eating records that you think you could break.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Go through, find the list, see what the records are. So if I had to get close to one, and I don't think I would, but I said this on Saturday, for whatever reason, sushi does not fill me up. I can just eat and eat and eat sushi. Could I eat 141 pieces in 10 minutes? I don't think so. But if I was going to contend for one, that'd probably be it.
You know what I could down is shrimp cocktail. I could probably do like 300 shrimp.
I was literally on the shrimp one right here. So they don't have it in shrimp, but in 12 minutes, Eric the Red Denmark ate 4 pounds and 15 ounces of shrimp.
4 pounds. I wonder how much that is. I wonder how many pieces.
Would you like the shrimp cocktail record?
Oh, is there a shrimp cocktail record?
Yes, set by Joey Chestnut in 2024.
You're not getting close to this.
In just 8 minutes, Joey Chestnut ate 21 pounds of shrimp cocktail.
Oh my God.
So again, I think
I want to know how many pieces that is. Though.
I have this out there for you and Ty. I'm giving you a suggestion. Big three eating records you think you could break. Or what you think you would be the best in. Maybe not even the record you could break, because you're not going to break that number. That's insane. But, like, what you think you could compete in the best.
I have to think about that. I'm going to make a note of that.
Okay, I'll send you the link of the records. I'll send you that so you can peruse. There's like 100 of them on here. So you have options. Matt Dolloff, 985 the Sports Hub Underground podcast. Thanks so much for joining us talking Bruins.
Thanks for having me on, Barth. I'll see you tomorrow.
Me and Matt, we're going to be doing a special Patriots Hub podcast tomorrow. We've kind of been dormant for the offseason. We're going to have something really fun, really unique for you tomorrow. So subscribe to the Sports Hub YouTube channel and Patriots Hub podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, to get that. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick check of the headlines. Then to your calls here. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
From the Telfair Tire Studios, it's not just the games. It's Toucher and Hardy, Zolak and Bertrand, Felger and Maz, Joe Murray. For Boston sports fans, it's 98.5, the Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station. Essential Sports Hub headline, presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Red Sox lead 5-3 against the Rockies at Fenway Park in the bottom of the sixth. This is the first game of a 3-game set between the two teams this week. The difference right now, Roman Anthony's first career Fenway Park home run, which he hit in the bottom of the fifth inning. The Red Sox will have 3 representatives at the All-Star game next week as well. That will be Garrett Crochet, Aroldis Chapman, and Alex Bregman. They will all represent the team in Atlanta, where this year's game is being held. The Celtics made their initial offseason trades official today, and that came with a change in compensation, as the Drew Holiday deal is now an outright swap for Anthony Simons. The Celtics were originally reported to be getting 2 second-round picks as well, but something came up in the medical workout for Holiday that changed that. Kristaps Porzingis deal, that was finalized as well. That stays as is, with Porzingis going to Atlanta. Elsewhere in the NBA, a 3-team trade this morning sent Norman Powell to the Heat and John Collins to the Clippers. Kevin Love also moved in that deal to the Utah Jazz. He's expected to be bought out in a contract extension in the NBA, as the Orlando Magic and star Paolo Banchero have agreed on a 5-year maximum rookie contract extension that could be worth up to $287 million, according to ESPN. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by John Sewer and Drain Cleaning. 24-hour on-call service for your clogged drain emergencies. Go to johnsewer.com. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 9:30.
Get
There's the potential there for big stuff.
98.5 The Sports Hub app. Get the app.
Big thanks to Matt Dolloff for joining us for the last hour. 2 down, 2 to go here on the Sports Hub. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray. Will Bobby Krivitsky joining us coming up at 9:20. I want to get back into the Celtics a little bit. I saw we had a Patriots caller while Matt was on. If you want to call back in, 617-779-0985. You want to talk Patriots? We can get into the Red Sox, too. We'll get more into this after tonight's game ends. Or if you want to do any more Bruins, again, the number 617-779-0985. We'll go now to John in Maine on the Celtics offseason. John.
Hi. What are the reports about Lillard?
What were the reports about Lillard?
Yeah.
That there's mutual interest between him and the Celtics and him potentially coming to Boston.
Alrighty, thank you.
You're welcome.
If only every call could be that easy.
I know, it's great. What was the number you used to call just to get general information? 411-511?
411, I think, yeah.
617-779-0985. You're 411 for Boston sports. Yes, that is the report. He was on for like an hour and a half, too. Just to ask that.
Should have just asked Luke. Luke could have told him that.
Google it. Oh, it's Maine. Google it. But I appreciate him hanging on. I appreciate the call. But yeah, no, the reporting out there as of this weekend, I don't think we've gotten anything new since the weekend. Gary Washburn had something, Adam Himmelsbach had something, that there is mutual interest between the Celtics and Damian Lillard about Lillard coming to Boston. What that would look like in terms of years, in terms of the money. In other reports, it's been thrown around that Lillard could go for the mid-level exception. It's not just going to be that veteran's minimum while Milwaukee pays him. So that's going to be a factor. When does he sign? Does he sign at the beginning of the year? Do they kind of have a handshake deal and wait to help manage the aprons and the tax? I think could maybe be a factor. And then you get this other element of this conversation yesterday from Mark Stein that Bradley Beal reportedly is going to get bought out. And okay, if the Celtics are in the market for a veteran guard, well, if you're going to talk about Damian Lillard, don't you have to talk about Bradley Beal? Right? If you're in the building and you're looking at Damian Lillard and you find out Bradley Beal is going to become available, you'd be shortchanging yourself to not explore that opportunity. And that's one that I think is a better opportunity for the Celtics, assuming the money is equal. I'm not paying a ton more to get Bradley Beal as opposed to Lillard. And I said earlier, and Skaz, I think you agreed, I'm team neither. I'm team no old, on the decline veteran guard. Play the kids, play Simons, play Pritchard, play J.D. Davison. I actually really like J.D. Davison. I'd like to see him play a bigger role this year. I would. G-League MVP.
Hugo's on his way. So.
Well, but he's not a guard.
No, but he's going to play 1 through 5.
Fair enough.
That's what I'm being sold on Hugo right now. He's the next Luka.
Hugo.
I'm sorry. H is silent.
Yes.
Hugo. I did read that. So I'm with you. Neither. They don't need either of them. Maybe if you want to really keep Tatum happy, fine. But I don't think a pure basketball. It's not a Brad Stevens move. I'll say that. It doesn't feel like it unless he believes in one of these guys.
Lillard could be a Joe Mazzulla move. That could be
shoots.
something I could see Joe Mazzulla pushing for. And that doesn't mean it's right. But it's something I could see Joe Mazzulla pushing for. The other element of this, and I talked about this with a caller earlier, and this isn't me saying like it's right or wrong. It's just a factor. The Celtics want to be under the second apron. They may want to be under the luxury tax entirely. They're currently just over. Bobby Manning had a tweet the other day, and they haven't made any moves since. I think that had them like less than $1 million over, a couple $100,000 over. The second apron. They're just under $20 million over the luxury tax. So if you're now going to add Bradley Beal or Damian Lillard, and by the way, they still need a starting center. Let's not forget about that part. If you're going to add one of these guys, you now need to subtract even more. If you're adding them on the MLE especially, you need to subtract even more to get under the apron and under the tax. So is Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal going to cost you Anthony Simons? Going to cost you Sam Hauser? Like, these are players that I wouldn't necessarily be in a rush to part with. And yeah, you might lose Simons after 1 year. But if you sign Lillard and lose Simons, you're really struggling now at guard this year. Like, you have some guys that, again, I like J.D. Davison. He's not proven. You have Derek White. You have Peyton Pritchard. That's kind of it. So I don't need them to make the move. I'd rather them go get a center. There's no centers available. It's a different conversation. I get it. But I can't get worked up about Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal to the Celtics. I'm glad we're talking about it. It's July 7th. We've done about an hour on it. Certainly a good conversation. It's an interesting conversation. And I don't think all Celtics fans are on the same side, which I think is good. Because it's a real conversation. There is merit to bringing them in. I've said this. If Damian Lillard will come for the minimum, and if he will accept an Eddie House type role, I would do it. I would be invested in. I don't think either of those things are going to happen. So I'm out. Also, because I have their basketball reference pages up here, there's some wild nicknames. I love sports reference nicknames. Skaz, you're grinning. You know about this. They'll put like, somebody gets called something once. Tom Brady's is like Big Pharaoh or something on there, right? So Damian Lillard's are kind of what you expect. Dame time, big game Dame, Sub-Zero, logo Lillard, Dame Dollar. Bradley Beal, this might be the best argument for getting Bradley Beal or some of these nicknames. So Real Deal Beal, I've heard a little bit. I don't love it, but I've heard it. Brad, that's not a nickname. Dr. Dre? I don't know why that's there. And then here we go. You tell me which one of these is a better nickname, Skaz, for Bradley Beal. Blue Magic or Big Panda? And have you ever heard Bradley Beal called either of those things?
For some reason, I feel like him and Tatum do the panda emojis, like kind of often, maybe. Maybe I'm just, now that you've said it, it's in my mind. But I do feel like that's a thing I've seen on social media. I like the Big Panda. I don't really know where it came from, but it's a good nickname.
AI tells me it's because of his eating habits. It's not like he's a big guy. He's 6'5", 207.
Yeah, I think of Bradley Beal as like a pretty thin guy.
Here's a quote from John Wall it's John Wall. It's going to be a while ago. 2014. Whenever we go out to eat, he might get the biggest meal and he's going to finish it. Sometimes I'm going to be honest and I'm like, man, I can't finish. I got to take it to go. He finds a way to be the only one to finish his meal. With Beal then replying, you got to get your second wind. What does that have to do with pandas? I mean, I know pandas eat a lot, but there's a lot of animals that eat a lot. Big Panda to Boston?
Start the hashtag.
I just realized we already did that. Wasn't that Pablo Sandoval's nickname?
Yeah, I think it was something like that, yeah.
Now I got to go to his. I know we're up against. I'm going to take the break in a sec. I just got to finish this thought.
The best sports reference nicknames, though, are ones you can't even say on the air. Like, there are some great ones
obviously
that are out there.
Did I say Pablo Sanchez before? Pablo Sandoval. They're dropping another level of backyard baseball tomorrow.
Oh, Barth, I can't believe I haven't mentioned this already, but the audience, myself, everyone involved should be thanking you for being in tonight. If the people knew...
Oh, we're going to get to that. Don't worry.
What was out there.
Don't spoil my musings. Don't spoil my musings.
I'm just saying, you're doing a heroic thing tonight. A heroic act.
Second year in a row has been the case, by the way. Yeah, Pablo Sandoval is the Kung Fu Panda. All right. So, no, we already did the Big Panda to Boston. That worked out horrifically. So, Bradley Beal, you got to sign off on another Panda coming to Boston. I don't want to make... I got to come up with a nickname for Bobby Krivitsky now. Big... I don't know. Big... I was almost said Big Tuna. That's a thing. Big Anteater, Bobby Krivitsky. Covers the Celtics for Forbes. Coming up next. We'll talk more. Let's see what he thinks of Bradley Beal's nicknames. We'll talk to him next here on the Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.5.
Back here on 98.5 The Sports Hub, it's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray tonight. Big Celtic show tonight, big basketball show tonight. So we bring in to talk some Celtics, talk some hoops, answer some of the questions that I've had. Bobby Krivitsky, he covers the Celtics and the NBA for Forbes. Bobby, thanks for joining us tonight.
Alex, always my pleasure. What's going on?
Well, what's going on is we'll get here before I get to stuff I wanted to ask you. Looking at Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard, and you know about the sports reference site nicknames, right? Were you aware Bradley Beal's nickname is Big Panda?
I don't think anyone calls him that. The nicknames on Basketball Reference or Sports Reference are not to be taken as gospel.
So for Bradley, the Damian Lillard ones I've all pretty much heard. For Bradley Beal, they have Dr. Dre, Big Panda, and Blue Magic.
I don't know if anyone's really calling him any of those. Like the Dr. Dre one, I'm sure some people have made that joke to him at points of his life. I don't think, for example, the Suns were going around calling him Dr. Dre on the regular.
It sounds like the Wizards were calling him Big Panda. There's a piece on Bleacher Report. They asked John Wall about it, and John Wall confirmed it. So there's that. But how can you, us as Boston fans, and Bobby covers the Celtics, but he follows all the teams. We already did the whole Panda nickname thing here with Pablo Sandoval, and it didn't work out. So that makes me nervous about Bradley Beal. Also his production the last couple of years. I'm also nervous about Damian Lillard. What do you make of the connection between the Celtics and Lillard, and do you subscribe to the fact that if they're interested in Lillard, they might be interested in Beal?
No, I don't think there's a connection to be made there, though I understand it as, hey, here's an intriguing option for relatively cheap. But the Celtics, when you look at the playing time for what looks the part of a gap year, they want those minutes to go to Peyton Pritchard and Hugo Gonzalez, their first-round pick from Real Madrid, and Baylor Shireman, and there's still Jaylen Brown and Derek White on the roster. So there's already a bit of a logjam there. I don't think Bradley Beal meshes with that. And then with Damian Lillard, it's a different story because you would expect he misses the entire season. And one of the things I heard, Alex, is, all the talk of he could rehab with Jason Tatum. I think that's true, and it would be comforting and beneficial for both. I've also heard that, of course, he would use this opportunity where, for however long he's out, Damian Lillard, to also spend more time with his family than he typically would during the season, especially these last couple of years while he was in Milwaukee. But Lillard makes more sense than Bradley Beal. I don't see the latter ultimately being someone the Celtics sign.
Do you think the Lillard thing is real? Do you think there's a real chance he ends up in Boston?
I do. I think it makes a lot of sense for both sides. And it's important to understand when you think about how he would fit in, he would be the player coming off the bench. And if that's a bridge too far, then it might be a situation where Damian Lillard is starting, but that's the least important part of mapping out and navigating minutes. I ultimately think he would be coming here, if he does, in the role of sixth man, where, again, the selling points being his respect for the organization. That's reportedly a big part of his interest with the Celtics, on top of rehabbing with Tatum, and that he would return and not have nearly the workload and the burden that he had to shoulder, even in Milwaukee when he was flanking Giannis. If he was out there and he's got Tatum, who's healthy at this point in time, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and all these other options, it's much more manageable for him upon returning.
So this is what I've said. I don't love the Lillard thing in theory. If you tell me he'll come here and basically accept being Eddie House, I can get on board with it a lot more. If he's willing to play a complimentary role, maybe Eddie House is a bit under what he'd be, but if he'll come here and play a complimentary role and really play a complimentary role, not say he will and then get bothered by it, I'm in on that. Because, yeah, he's an electric scorer, and if he's leading your bench unit or if he's, another guy you can go to, if Tatum and Brown are having an off night, that's great. If he still wants 20 shots a game, for a guy that's going to be 36 coming off a torn Achilles, you don't know what he's going to be, that would worry me.
Yeah, I think it's all about those conversations and what are you willing to accept in terms of role and how much you're willing to sacrifice. But the idea is that he's going to sign his next contract for around the veteran minimum. maybe he gets around that taxpayer mid-level exception, which is still below $6 million. So when you look at the size of the contract, and as you laid out his age, where he's at in his career, and the nature of the injury he's coming off, that all points to a player who has not won, who has a lot of individual accolades, who would be willing to, theoretically at least, buy into a role like that. I think that is accurate in the case here with Damian Lillard. So once again, it might not be where he chooses, but I think the Celtics and Lillard make a lot of sense and why they are a strong candidate to ultimately land him.
We're talking to Bobby Krivitsky. He covers the Celtics in the NBA for Forbes. So Lillard aside, this is a team that, one, does not have a starting center, at least not on paper, and has kind of let it be known that their objective this offseason is to get under the second apron, maybe even get under the luxury tax altogether, and as of now is still over. I do know, and I had Bobby Manning on last week, he talked about this, they can really wait till the deadline to get under. I don't love that, because what if you are rolling and now you have to trim from this team that is having success? So do you believe the Celtics, even beyond Lillard, are the Celtics done this offseason, or are there more significant moves to come?
Yeah, Alex, I'll say this. I'm old enough to remember when fans quickly fell in love with Dennis Schroeder and were wondering, how can the Celtics extend him and keep him here long term?
That's right.
And then that situation, right, it soured, and they ultimately moved him by that trade deadline. So if Anthony Simons, who that trade is now official, he's a Boston Celtic. We'll speak to Brad Stevens tomorrow. But even in the form of a press release, he touched on the acquisitions of him and Georges Niang. Anthony Simons, if he's with the Celtics to start the season, I could easily see fans being infatuated with his game and what he brings at the offensive end, especially as a scorer and as a shooter in particular. So we'll have to see. And there certainly could be a situation where they're this fun, lovable group that is winning, and the Celtics have to look at it and say, we still ultimately know what's to come in the playoffs, and it's in our long-term best interest to stick with this motive of gaining flexibility, which means you trade a player like Simons. So we'll see. I think a lot of this has to do, though, with the market, and they certainly have done their due diligence to see what options are out there. But if they're not appealing, then they might feel like their best bet is to go into the season with a player like Simons.
What did you make of the fact that the return changed in that Simons trade with Drew Holiday and they didn't get those second-round picks? How much does that matter, if at all?
So it's interesting because after the second round of the draft, I asked Mike Zarin about how important the organization viewed stockpiling, once again, second-round draft picks, and he thought it was pretty critical to this goal of achieving flexibility, whether it's, hey, we can acquire some useful players down the line with these picks. We might have to attach one to get off the salary. So it creates optionality that they understandably value. To lose them here in this deal, I don't want to overstate how important it is, but it's certainly not insignificant. It would give them some more flexibility here. That's the buzzword. And they lost a bit of it with this finalizing of the Drew Holiday trade that is different than originally agreed upon.
Again, we're talking to Bobby Krivitsky, Celtics reporter NBA and Celtics reporter for Forbes. Bobby, before we let you go, Jason Tatum, we get that video over the weekend of him walking in the pool. And, he seems to be around the facility or a facility, still in a walking boot most of the time, but seemingly making progress. Are you hearing anything about your timeline? And when it comes to Tatum, I've said don't rush him. Like, if he's 90%, even if they're at a 50-win pace, it can be a very fake 50 wins in this East. I don't want them to risk any sort of complications, any sort of re-aggravations. I'd like to see them really give him as much run as he needs. If he's 100% in April, fine, bring him back. But what have you heard about, one, his timeline, and two, how aggressively the team is looking at his timeline?
I think there's no aggression on the team's part. Tatum is putting in the work, as you said, and really attacking his rehab. I don't want to confirm this. I cannot, but all signs point to, you would think it's most likely that he had the speed bridge procedure, and that allows you to start your rehab process faster and theoretically return quicker. It also minimizes the risk of an infection and that type of a setback, which is a very positive and another advantage to if he did, in fact, go that route. So he's attacking his rehab full speed. He might have it in his mind that he's going to come back and play next season. But Brad Stevens was abundantly clear after the first round of the draft that there's no timeline, there's no timetable on the part of the Celtics. There's no expectations for when he returns. They're still in the initial stages of this, and they're going to play it slowly. They're going to put a lot of check marks at each stage for him to be able to clear. And you can talk about all the differences between his situations and Kevin Durant's, including age most notably. But Durant is the shining example of a player returning from an Achilles tear and playing at the caliber he was before the injury happened. He missed that entire next season. And that was the year where they took a pause during the season because of the pandemic. They went to Orlando for the bubble. It didn't make sense for Durant to go anyways. Nonetheless, he missed a full season of basketball and then returned and looked like Kevin Durant and has continued to do so. So for Jason Tatum, especially with the way things look for the Celtics next season, I think it is in their best interest, and granted it's July, but I think it's in their best interest that he does not play next season and they err on the side of caution.
I'm with you, Bobby, and people are going to get excited. They're going to see the workout videos, and look, he's dribbling. Oh, look, he's shooting. He could be back in April. He could be back in March. I think patience is key here. And I'd say the same for Jason Tatum. I think there might be a point where if you're the Celtics, and you're Joe Mazzulla and Brad Stevens, you're going to have to save Jason Tatum from himself because he's going to want to come back, and you might have to be ready to step in and say, we know you feel good, Jason. The medicals aren't quite there. But it'll be fascinating to watch all year. Bobby Krivitsky, you can follow him on social media at Bobby Krivitsky, covers the Celtics and the NBA for Forbes. Bobby, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Always a pleasure, Alex.
Quick check of the headlines. We'll be back. We'll get into some more Celtic stuff. We can get into the Patriots. Your calls as well. 617-779-0985. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
Sports Hub headlines. Presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
The Red Sox in action at Fenway against Colorado Rockies. First game of a 3-game series between these two teams, and the Red Sox lead now 6-3. As Roman Anthony comes all the way around from first to score. Anthony also hit his first Fenway Park home run. You can either go rewind in the show if you find it on the Sports Hub YouTube channel, or the show's podcasted, Joe Murray Show, wherever you get your podcasts, and you can hear what he said. But basically talking about the importance the Celtics are going to put on making sure the young guys play. And if you sign Damian Lillard, he's not going to take up minutes from the young guys this year, right? To which I say, okay, well, if you're playing the young, and this isn't fair to Bobby because he made the point, and I just said that's a fair point, and now I'm going to punch back when he's not here, but that's what you get to do when you sit in this chair. You're developing the young guys for what? Just for Damian Lillard to come in next year and take their role back when he's 36, coming off a torn Achilles, and you don't know what he's going to be? If your focus is to develop the young players, develop them to grow into that role so you don't need to give $6 million to a 35-year-old coming off a torn Achilles. I would say that's the point of the whole thing. So I still feel vindicated, Skaz, and you're on my team on this. Team no old guards. Team no old guards for the win. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I'm of the belief that, moving on from Porzingis, Holiday, and I think most likely Horford at this point, who I think could retire. I think that's a real option the longer this goes. But you should be getting younger. You should be not rebuilding or anything like that, but you're retooling for when Tatum's healthy and Jalen's fully healthy and all that. So bringing in guys that are 34, 35, 36, like this, I think they're going to be competitive, this team. I think they could be a 3 or 4 seed in the East. I don't think they're a legitimate title contender, but the following year, there's no reason for you not to be a legit title contender. So a guy that is that old doesn't do anything for me. I think they need to get younger and control assets.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And I've made this comparison, and the timeline's a little different. But when Brady had his knee injury in 2008, whether it was on purpose or not, that's when the Patriots kind of reset. And Brady was obviously a great player the whole time, but that's where you went from the young guy Tom Brady leading this team of veterans behind him to Tom Brady being the veteran. And when Tatum comes back and when Jaylen Brown's fully healthy, like you said, they were the kids. They were still sort of the kids on this team. Drew Holiday's 35, 36. Yeah, Kristaps Porzingis is 30, but that's an old 30. You had Al Horford. Now those guys are the vets. Those guys are the ones teaching everybody else how to be a pro. And the idea is you get younger and more athletic around them. So there is an argument to be made for Lillard. Why not just have a younger guy do some of that? That's where I'm at with it. 617-779-0985. You want to talk Celtics? We do have musings coming up next, though, with Alex Barth here on the Sports Hub.
Don't go anywhere. There's more Joe Murray. On the
No Joe Murray tonight. It's Alex Barth, but we do still have musings. And so this is where I always get it wrong. I'm supposed to complain about something. It's not just something that's on my mind. Before we get to the one that Skaz teased, the trunk of my car was open. And I have no idea why or when that happened. I have off-street parking, and nothing's missing. And it was raining, but it was just open. I have a sedan, so it's just open a little bit, so it wasn't wet in there or anything. My golf clubs are fine. But now I'm going to find a squirrel in there or something next week when I go to get my clubs out of my car or whatever. Why was it clearly wasn't open that long? I know that because in the morning it wasn't. Why did it open? Did something happen that I missed? Now this is just all I can think about is what's going on with the trunk of my car. I'm hoping what I'm trying to tell myself is that when I was going downstairs, something, the way my keys were in my pocket next to my wallet, it bumped the trunk button. But I haven't been able to shake it all day.
Yeah, I've had that happen before, and honestly, I don't keep my golf clubs in my car anymore because of it. I used to always have them in my trunk.
This is a first for me.
Yeah, I'm also a little neurotic, especially when it comes to the golf club. But I take them in and out now. They're in the house. They're in the shed, in the house, in the three seasons room, whatever it is. But I don't leave them in the car anymore.
See, I would love to do that. I don't have any of those places to keep them, so that makes it a little more difficult.
Yeah,
my trunk at this point, my trunk is basically just general storage for things I have that I can't fit in my apartment. When I go grocery shopping, right? I put the bags in the backseat. My trunk is basically just a storage compartment.
Yeah,
long-term
shoes,
storage.
Clothes, yeah.
Not clothes.
No clothes.
I do have some
there.
shoes back there. My golf shoes, and then I have another pair of emergency shoes. I actually have 2 golf bags. So when I started golfing in college, I just bought one of those $200 starter kits. Because I was all right, I'm not going to put real money. And that was a lot of money for me at the time. It was as cheap as it got. And some of it was a gift. But I was I'm not going to really put money into this until I know I want to do it. So then when I got my real clubs a couple years later, I gave the starter kit to my brother. And then my brother started playing, and he liked it. And he built up his own set. So he then gave me back a bunch of the starter clubs. So I'm I have friends who say they want to play. They're never around. They say they want to play, but they don't have clubs. They don't have any. It's not an excuse to say no when I ask if they want to golf. Oh, I don't have clubs. I don't want to pay for rentals. I have clubs. As long as they're not a lefty, I have clubs. But all the clubs are still in there. It was just very annoying. The other musing, this is just a thought. What I'm thinking about today, besides my trunk being open. EA Sports College Football 26 early release today at noon. The full release is on the 10th. I still can't believe that we have a college football game back. I really didn't. It never seemed real until last year. This is the second year in a row that I'm working when the game comes out. Last year I was on Felger and Maz that whole week. So not only was I on Monday, I was on Monday through Thursday. So
I remember this because it's all we talked about.
It's all we talked about, but it was also I never got that one chance. I think that Friday I spent, and it rained. I think I spent the whole day playing because it wasn't even all right, I'm going to come home, I'm going to play because I got to watch the Red Sox. We might talk about it tomorrow, be up in the morning, and I have to do my writing job too, my full-time job. And I'm seeing everybody playing it and having fun. I got in a little bit, but this one isn't as bad. I'll go home tonight. I'll play a little bit. I did get on a tiny bit before I came in because it released at noon.
Oh, so you were waiting. You do the pre-install and everything already downloaded?
Well, I do the pre-install because otherwise it takes 10. If I didn't do the pre-install, the game wouldn't be done by the time I got home tonight. It's so slow. There's a musings for you. I miss discs. I missed a game on a disc. It was fun. First of all, they were cool collectibles. I had all the Maddens. And you put the disc in, you play. You didn't have to 10 hours wait for the game to download. It was a better time. But yeah, I played around with it. It was fun. It was cool. Bill O'Brien is in the game. They put real coaches in. Bill O'Brien got in. Bill Belichick not in the game. He's not the only coach that's not in. He's not the only high-profile coach that's not in. Dion's not in either.
Do either of those surprise you?
Not particularly. I think they're not in for different reasons. But, it's all collectively bargained, right? So Bill Belichick, Deion Sanders would get the same amount of money as like the head coach of Charlotte. And if you're Deion Sanders, I don't blame him if he wants to negotiate on his own. Like, it would make sense, right? He'd be leaving a lot of money on the table, and I don't blame the game for being like, it's not important. Do you know how many people are going to want to be Colorado and create their own coach to begin with? The one thing I'm bummed they didn't do, because Bill Belichick was never in Madden, because he wasn't in the coaches union, so they didn't have his rights. So there were a couple years it was different, guys, but for the most part, the fill-in coach for Bill Belichick was a character named Chad Masters, who looked nothing like Bill.
I had the Chad. I did not have the last name. It's like Reggie Stalker for Barry Bonds back in the day.
West Mailman.
Yes.
Chad Masters, like a skinny guy with glasses. He wore a visor. He actually kind of looked more like Josh McDaniels. EA should have carried Chad Masters over to the college game. That would have been very cool. Instead, they have a fella with a big, what's his name? The host of Family Feud. Why can't I think of his name?
Steve Harvey?
Yeah, they have a guy with a Steve Harvey mustache named Hector Luna. So that is Bill Belichick. Also not in the game, and I was bummed by this because I wanted to light him up, like play Ohio State. Matt Patricia, because coordinators are in the game too.
No, Matty P.
Matt Patricia not in the game. A few former Patriots assistants are. Bill O'Brien is. Jed Fish is. Head coach at Washington. He's in the game. And well, the thing about Patricia is Ryan Day's in the game.
Is Steve in the game?
I didn't even look. I'd imagine not if Bill's not.
I'm surprised Jordan didn't get Bill to.
So I was waiting for that, and I tweeted it out earlier, and I was waiting for the comment that Jordan didn't let him be in the game, and nobody said it.
I think she'd want him in the game almost. It's more publicity, right?
Or she went to them and said, if you're going to use his likeness, you have to pay his rate, not collectively bargained, and EA said, get out of here.
You have to put me on the sideline as well. You have to. I need to.
There was like an AI Jordan Hudson College Football 26 cover going around when they first announced the cover athletes.
Anything's possible.
So, are you good? Did you get it? Did you get the new one?
I don't have 26 yet, but obviously, yeah, I'll get it at some point.
It?
Yeah, I had 25. I liked it a lot. It was
great. There was so much hype, and it still managed to deliver. Incredible.
My only issue is that I constantly want to like restart, like just pick another team and do it all over again. Like I never get to year 3 or year 4 or year 5. Like I love the building process too much.
Well, but that's why you jump to different teams.
Yeah, you get take a new job or something.
And part of
like
what makes the college one good is like I like the rebuilding process. You do it in Madden, you build your team, and your team's built. You're not playing 15 years for your quarterback to retire. In college, it turns over every 4 or 5 years. The thing I'm excited about, though, and I'm a Dynasty guy, like that's my favorite, but I enjoyed Road to Glory back in the day. That's when you like create a player and you play through his career. It was pretty bare bones last year, and I understand why. I don't fault them a ton for it. They were building the game up from scratch, but they like really put a lot of work into it this year. They put back in playing in high school. They made it more interactive. I'm looking forward to doing Road to Glory. It's going to be cool. I wish there were more positions, but the quarterback ones are great. I like the running back ones.
I think I saw you. It was probably you that retweeted it, but it seems like even though it's year 2, they're listening to fans. Like they're putting stadium songs in. They're doing fan things.
Oh, they put in
Mr.
Mr. Brightside at Michigan. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm sure like West Virginia's probably got.
I don't think Country Roads is in there.
They couldn't pay for it, maybe?
But I feel like I would have seen it. Well, they didn't have because Metallica is like impossible to license music, right? They didn't have Enter Sandman for Virginia Tech last year, and they added it this year. That was something I tried out this afternoon. That was pretty cool. But they have them shipping up to Boston for BC. BC got a good amount of work. Like they did good stuff. They put in New Balance just for BC. No other school has that.
I remember when the trailer came out, they were like one of the first teams that were
that's
featured.
right in the old trailer.
That's interesting.
Are you going to play Madden this year too?
I've heard very good things, which is surprising but I don't know if I can buy the hype. I've heard that there, a lot of work to be done. It's not just a copy and paste from last year, but do I believe it? I'll probably get suckered back in. Who knows?
I'm going to take the cheese, and every year they put this stuff in. I'm like, that actually sounds good, and then it's not, but like, I like franchise. They put a lot of work in a franchise, and some of the stuff, it's tough because, so for instance, they put in a weekly recap show. So like you play your week, And then Scott Hansen hosts a show where they show you highlights from the other games. They tell you what happened that week. On one hand, I'm like, that's really cool. I'm glad they have that. On the other hand, ESPN NFL 2K5 had that 20 years ago. What have we been waiting for? But I'll take the cheese. I'll end up.
The other thing too, you mentioned like the road to the show, the road to glory.
Yeah.
There, the Madden used to have a great one.
Oh, remember you could have like
an apartment.
You could upgrade your apartment.
You could have a house, and you could buy like a mansion, and you'd be like doing stuff off the field, like whatever. Like I feel like
those are great.
They got too bare bones with it, but those old school Maddens were. That might have been like the Sean Alexander one or something, but those were great.
Madden 06, Donovan McNabb was the first year they had it, and it was excellent. Yeah. Those are fun. I'll get in on that. But how about this? You want to talk some real football? I'm sure there's a bunch of video games, nerds. You want to talk some real football?
Yeah, why not?
Let's talk some real football. Let's get into some Patriot stuff because there is one interesting Patriot storyline right now I wrote about this morning I want to get into a little bit. Plus your calls, 617-779-0985. You want to talk Patriots. If you want to get into the Red Sox too, we can. I'm kind of waiting for this game to wrap up to give a take on this game. But you want to start lining up. You want to talk Red Sox as well. We'll do that. Patriots in the final hour. Quick check of the headlines here first. No commercials, 90 seconds. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
From the Telfair Tire Studios, it's not just the games. It's Toucher and Hardy, Zolak and Bertrand, Felger and Maz, Joe Murray. For Boston sports fans, it's 98.5, the Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station. Essential Sports Hub headline, presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
They are just about finished up at Fenway. I'm probably being a little too literal here, not starting with this game, but it is the top of the ninth. The Red Sox lead 9-3 over the Colorado Rockies, 3 outs away from taking the first game of this 3-game set. Earlier in this game, Roman Anthony hit his first career Fenway Park home run, hit that thing to center field. He is now 3 for 5 on the game. The Red Sox also getting home runs from Cedane Rafaela. Boy, is he red hot. And Romy Gonzalez just hit one as well to put the Red Sox up, again, 9-3. The Sox will also have 3 All-Stars heading to Atlanta next week. That group is Garrett Crochet, Aroldis Chapman, and Alex Bregman. All 3 are reserves as part of the rosters announced last night. Celtics trades made earlier this offseason are now official, although there is a change. The Drew Holiday deal now an outright player swap for Anthony Simons with the Portland Trail Blazers. The Celtics were originally supposed to get a couple of second-round picks. Those no longer are part of the deal due to something that popped up during Holiday's medical evaluation. Meanwhile, the Kristaps Porzingis trade to Atlanta, that goes through as reported. Elsewhere in the NBA, there's a 3-team trade this morning that sent Norman Powell to the Heat and John Collins to the Clippers. Kevin Love was also dealt in that deal to Utah, but he's expected to be bought out. And the Orlando Magic and star Paolo Banchero have reached an agreement on a 5-year maximum rookie contract extension that could reach $287 million, according to ESPN. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Premier Basement Waterproofing. If you find water from the rain or sump pump isn't pumping, call the best, third-generation family owned by the Albert family, 844-LIVE-DRY, or premierbasement.net. It's game over for water. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 10:30.
Boston Sports. Boston Sports. And it is all we do. 98.5, the Sports Hub.
Final hour of the Joe Show. No Joe tonight, though. It's Alex Barth in. Thanks to everybody who has hung out all night. Again, final hour. You want to talk, whatever, 617-779-0985. We've talked quite a bit of Celtics tonight. Talk some Bruins. Thanks to Matt Dolloff for coming in earlier. If you missed that segment, you want to hear Dolloff's take on the Bruins. That is now up. Thanks to our intern, Luke. Look at that Ithaca College grad doing a good job. No surprise there. The segment with Matt Dolloff is now up on the Sports Hub YouTube channel, the Sports Hub Twitter. And we're going to get into the Red Sox in a little bit. Like I said, I'm going to kind of wait till this game and see if we can get some people driving home from Fenway Park from what should be a Red Sox win. If they lose this, frankly, it's probably going to take long enough that we won't get to it, Skaz, in the next 54 minutes. But also it will be something I want to get to because that'd be a pretty monumental collapse. They're up 9-3 right now with 2 outs to go. There's a runner on second. But I do want to get to the Patriots as well, because it is the dead period of the NFL offseason, but there really is no dead period of the NFL offseason. There's always something to talk about. And this time of year, it's usually holdouts. Who didn't go to minicamp? Who's saying they're not going to go to training camp? Who wants a new contract? And that inevitably leads to trade rumors. Now, of the handful of players that do this every year, maybe one or two get traded. Sometimes none. Might be a couple. But this year, there's three guys right now that we're looking at. And that is a couple edge rushers, TJ Watt in Pittsburgh, Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati, and wide receiver Terry McLaurin in Washington. All three would help the Patriots. All three, to me, are situations worth monitoring for New England. But it's not I can't imagine it's going to be a spot where, all right, they're all available. Like, who do we want? We can play that game if you want, 617-779-0985. I think there's actually a clear answer to that question, who the Patriots should want the most to become available. But it's really who will be. And if multiple do, who's the best fit? The guy I'm watching the closest is Trey Hendrickson. I think that of those three, Hendrickson is the most likely to become available. And I don't necessarily think that there's a small gap there. Like, I think it's Hendrickson by a lot. And then you can debate the other two for different reasons. There's a couple of reasons I think Hendrickson's the most likely to become available. For one, the Bengals have over $100 million in cap space per year committed to just three players, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, and that's going to be the case for the foreseeable future here. They do still technically have room to extend Hendrickson, and I should say, as of the reporting tonight, and there was reporting over the weekend, all three are right now still negotiating contracts. Nobody's requested a trade. Nobody's on the block. They're still negotiating, and there's been reporting that Hendrickson is frustrated with his situation, with the way those negotiations are going, that McLaurin is frustrated with the way his negotiations are going, but they're still negotiating. They're not talking trade yet. They're not talking to outside teams. So that caveat being said, the Bengals have $100 million per year committed to Burrow, Chase, and Higgins for the near future. They can pay Hendrickson. They do still have room to give him what would be a fair market contract, but that's just going to hamstring them further as they need to rebuild their entire defense. They were 25th in the league in defense last year. They have seen monumental defensive turnover the last couple of years. It does help that they've drafted pass rushers high the last couple of years. This past year, like this in April, they took Shamar Stewart. Now, they're also having trouble negotiating a contract with him. It is a very rare first-round holdout. You really don't see those ever since they standardized rookie contracts about 15 years ago. But they drafted Shamar Stewart last year. This past year in the first round, they drafted Myles Murphy a couple years ago. He's kind of been a disappointment, but a guy that can play on the edge. Chris Jenkins to play in the middle last year was a top 50 pick for them. So they've built up that rush, and if you have to pay one or the other, it would be kind of weird if the Bengals paid Trey Hendrickson, the 30-year-old, who's going to command significantly more money, versus losing their first-round pick. So it all seems like Hendrickson could become available. If he does, he'd be a linchpin pass rusher for the Patriots. Their pass rush group kind of reminds me of their wide receivers right now, where there's some good complementary pieces, but there's not that who's dictating the coverage, who's dictating the opposing blocking scheme. Yes, they have talent in the middle. Milton Williams, Christian Barmore. It's different when those guys are on the outside and you can isolate them on a tackle. It's kind of like having a tight end dictate your coverage scheme. It can be done. It's not exactly the same. So Hendrickson gives you that guy on the outside. He still should have like a few years left. I know he's on the older side, but he's not exactly old. I want to say he's entering his age 31 season. I should know. I wrote about this morning on 985sportshub.com. Age 30 season. So you're going to get a couple good years out of him. coming off of back-to-back 17.5 sack years. Like, if he's available, and what's he going to cost? If Judon went for a third last year, I'd figure it's at least a second. Jeremy Fowler put out some proposed trades last month involving Hendrickson. That was mostly a second, and then another later day 3 pick. If I'm the Patriots, I'm doing that for Hendrickson. A second and a later day 3 pick, assuming he's coming on a contract. I'm not doing that on a rental. I don't want, was it Hassan Reddick, Skaz, who got traded 3 times last year because he kept holding out on contracts?
Sorry,
sorry about that.
Cutting socks back here. What'd you say, sorry?
Who was it? Hassan Reddick who kept getting traded last year because he was holding out on different contracts.
Jets and the Eagles there, yes.
So I'm not doing that. I want a deal done if I'm trading for him, but if I'm the Patriots, second round pick, late third or late day 3 pick for Trey Hendrickson, I would do that.
So the age doesn't bother you at all?
He's 30. And he's going to be, he turns 31 in December. It's his age 30 season. Pass rushers are playing well into their 30s. That is a position that ages well. Look at Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack's still a dog at 35 years old. I think Max Crosby's older than Hendrickson, right? And he just got paid. Oh, no, Max Crosby's only 27.
Yeah.
But, is he going to be a long-term answer? No. I think you're going to get 2 to 3 good years out of him. And between Mike Vrabel, Terrell Williams, the rest of this coaching staff that has had success in various places, drafting and developing pass rushers, I trust them to find the next guy after him. So I would do that. So that's the most likely outcome. I don't think it's the best outcome for the Patriots. There's still 2 guys we didn't break down. TJ Watt and Terry McLaurin. I think McLaurin's the best fit. I think all things considered. Now, he's also probably the least likely to get away. It would be organizational malpractice from the Washington Commanders. Now, this is an organization that is no stranger to organizational malpractice, but that was during the Dan Snyder era. They've actually had a pretty good couple years here. They got their quarterback. They got their coach. They're going to get a new stadium. So we'll give them some credit. You have a young quarterback who looks to be the real deal. He's still on that rookie contract. That's the whole beauty of it. You have the flexibility. I know McLaurin's 30, but that rookie quarterback's development should be paramount. That should be above all else, especially when you consider who else Washington has or really doesn't have at wide receiver. McLaurin's a big part of that development. They should be willing to overpay to keep him. And buy years, pay him more money so you don't have to keep him long term. I get it. The back end of that contract's probably not going to look good. For the next couple years, him working with Jaden Daniels is going to be worth it. And for all of the reasons, it would be insane for Washington to let Terry McLaurin go. Those are the same reasons the Patriots should be in on this. Young developing quarterback. Could use a better wide receiver group. They have the money to do it. They have $60 million in cap space, according to overthecap.com, the most in football. So what would McLaurin cost? He's not going to cost you more than DK Metcalf. That was a second and a late round pick swap. You want to throw in Kayshon Boutte? You want to throw in Kendrick Bourne? Sure. He would instantly be their best receiver, and he's a good scheme fit for Josh McDaniels. Side take here real quick. If you've heard me on the station the last couple weeks, you've heard me give this take. Not to bring up bad memories, but the 2019 draft. Everybody talks about, they should have taken A.J. Brown. They should have taken DK Metcalf. They should have taken Deebo Samuel. The reality is, at the time, drafting those players would have been a massive departure in the way the Patriots were operating in the draft. You want to tell me they should have gone away from what they were doing? They should have gone away from their types of guys, given their success at wide receiver? Fine. But you didn't look at any of those guys and say, that's a Patriot, right? There's those guys in every draft. Yeah, that guy checks all the boxes. That guy's a Patriot. I could see them drafting that guy. Nobody was really saying that about any of those guys. They might have said the Patriots should draft them, but nobody was saying that those guys were fits. Terry McLaurin was almost 100% a fit. Them drafting Terry McLaurin in 2019 would not have felt like a departure from their operation. The only exception is they didn't draft Ohio State guys. Bill drafted one Ohio State guy his entire time in New England. It was Nate Ebner. So they didn't really draft from that program. But outside of that, this was a guy that played on 4 downs, was excellent gunner, team captain, strong route runner, reliable hands. Like, he checked the boxes that they looked for. That's the second guess from 2019. And if he becomes available in the coming weeks, the Patriots should look to make that right. They could use a pass rusher. Hendrickson, Watt, sure. McLaurin's the guy I'm rooting for to come free from that group, but I also think he's the least likely to become free. Meanwhile, the Red Sox have finished up their game against the Rockies. I see people in the YouTube chat really want to talk about it. Let's talk a little Sox, shall we? You want to join us? You heading home from the game, 617-779-0985. Red Sox talk coming up next here. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
You're listening to Joe Murray on 98.5. You're listening to Joe Murray on
And then just the offense. They continue to do it. You know, the last 7 games now, averaging over 8 runs a game. That's usually going to get it done. And a good win here to start this homestand.
Back here on the Sports Hub, Alex Barth in for Joe Murray tonight. We've got about 35 minutes left. You want to call in, talk some ball, 617-779-0985. The Red Sox, 2 games over 500 with their win tonight, 9-3 over the Colorado Rockies. Not only have they gotten back to 500, they have climbed back over it. It is the first time they are 2 games over 500. Basically, since the Rafael Devers trade. They were 40-38 on June 21st. That was the beginning of that 6-game losing streak in San Francisco against Devers and the Giants. They've now won 4 in a row. 6 of their last 7. Look, they have a really easy stretch here going into the All-Star break. They were at Washington over the weekend. They swept that. They got the general manager fired. Now they have Colorado, a historically bad team, and then they'll wrap up the first half this weekend with Tampa Bay coming in. They need to take advantage of this stretch going into the break, and they started doing that tonight. You heard it there in the final call from Nesson. The bats got going. 14 hits, 3 home runs. Excuse me. The thing that I like the most, though, really about where this team is at right now, is what Roman Anthony is doing. Because it was a little slow starting. I think everybody will acknowledge that. But he's been on a tear. He's got 3 multi-hit games in his last 4. Went 3 of 5 tonight. Hit a home run, his first at Fenway Park, dead center. I think it was 418, if I remember correctly, seeing that number. Drove in a couple runs, scored a couple runs. He had multiple hits in the first 2 games against Washington, then had 1 yesterday. He seems locked in. He seems ready to go. And him hitting, and he's hitting in the middle of the lineup. Like, they're not hiding him. They're not exactly protecting him. Rob Refsnyder hit after him tonight. He's hitting in the middle of the lineup, and he's living up to it. The number 1 prospect in baseball is hitting like you'd expect the number 1 prospect in baseball to hit. The overall numbers are not great because, again, he did have that slow start. He hit .210 in the month of June, and of his 13 hits, 7 of them came in the last 3 games of the month. So it was a slow start again. But he's starting to hit, and if he's going to get going, that's the kind of guy the team will rally around. And he gives you a legitimate bat in the middle of your lineup that you thought you were losing when you traded Rafael Devers. The fielding, I get it. He DH'd tonight. I'm not worried about that. He just needs to hit. The other guy that continues to be insanely impressive is Ceddanne Rafaela. Hit another home run tonight. That's now 3 in as many games. He's up to 12 on the season. I mean, he's going to hit 20 home runs. Ceddanne Rafaela is going to hit 20 home runs. Average is up to 263. Skaz, is it just me, or do you feel like you're watching Jackie Bradley Jr. all over again? Because for stretches of the season, he'll hit like a $110. And then there'll be like 2 or 3 times a year for a couple weeks. He just randomly becomes Willie Mays. He randomly becomes prime Barry Bonds at the plate, and then also he's a plus defender the entire time. But they got another one of these guys. I like these guys. They're fun. Not if you're hitting them in the middle of the lineup. You hit them 9th. You let him make plays in the field. You ride him when they got hot. It's a fun kind of player.
Yeah, my hope for Rafael is that he's a slightly worse defensive version of Jackie Bradley Jr., but a much better offensive version of JBJ.
But what does better mean in this case?
I don't know.
More consistent, or the highs are higher? Because
just hit 250.
But
is that too much to ask?
Jackie Bradley Jr. hit 250 at times, though. But the thing is, he'd hit 100 for
4 months.
For 4 months, And then he'd have one month where he'd hit like 500. And that's what it feels like. Like if Raphael is any more consistent, then he's not Jackie Bradley Jr.
Yeah, can they do it against someone that isn't the Nationals and the Rockies, though? That's kind of my problem.
So I wanted to get to that. I want to get to that element of it because this is a fun little run for the Red Sox. When I say the biggest thing for me is Roman Anthony, part of the reason I bring that up is because that's not necessarily about 2025. Because I think this team still has fatal flaws that Roman Anthony alone is not going to overcome. The idea is for a team that has botched so many examples of player development, and it seems like every few days we get another insider story about what a mess their pipeline is. Whoa, did they actually figure it out with this guy? Did they develop this guy properly? Did Driveline not get to him and ruin him? So the Roman Anthony thing's about 2020, about more in 2025. As far as the 2025 season goes, yeah, they're on a nice little run right now. It's against, the Nationals. Oh, no, that's the Red Sox record. They're on this nice little run right now. It's against some of the worst teams in baseball. But they are objectively getting hot at the right time, so to speak. Going into the All-Star break, trade deadline looming. This is when you want to be good so the team's forced to buy and you have a chance to compete. How's Red Sox ownership going to look at this, though? And what is buying going to look like for a team that has pledged to be aggressive and make a push, but that approach included trading its best player? How does that follow through as we get into late July? I want to touch on that next. We'll keep talking Red Sox here. You want to call in 617-779-0985. But first, a quick check of the headlines. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray.
Sports Hub headlines presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
Yes, you heard it there. The Red Sox are now 47-45 after beating the Colorado Rockies 9-3 at Fenway Park tonight to kick off their penultimate series before the All-Star break. 3 home runs for the Sox. Romy Gonzalez, sit on ref. They needed a way to go up and get the baseballs. So the ladder is like above the scoreboard part, right? And they'd have another ladder that would take you up to that ladder, and you'd climb that ladder up, and you'd get the baseballs out of the nets. They obviously took the nets down for the monster seats in the early 2000s. And so what to do with the ladder? They were, as the story goes, and who knows exactly what the truth is, but as the story goes, they were going to take it down, and Major League Baseball or the Hall of Fame or somebody or those within the Red Sox pointed out, it is the only in-play ladder in Major League Baseball, so leave it. Because it's the only one of its kind, and once it's gone, the whole thing is gone. So the ladder stayed. Now, what is an urban legend is that if the ball bounces off the ladder and into the stands, which Nate Eaton's hit almost did, that it will be a ground rule triple. That is an urban legend. That does not exist. That would be a ground rule double. But I had to get some ladder talk in, Skaz, because I've never seen that, and that's kind of cool. And that is a neat quirk of Fenway Park. Not just the wall, but the ladder. The only in-play ladder in Major League Baseball. And I, for one, am glad they left it. I'm glad they gave us something to talk about and give us this other cool quirk at Fenway Park. I'm team ladder. In on the ladder. All right,
it looks like the paint on it might be. I'm glad it's outdoors. I'll say that. I don't know if that paint's passing tests in 2025. It looks like some very old paint on there. But yeah, sure. In on the ladder. It's good. It's quirky.
Well, this is what
baseball.
I'm saying. Like, because it dented, and however hard you hit that ball, you don't think a steel ladder is going to dent like that. But because it's non-functional, there's no maintenance on it, so it's probably rusted, and the steel's starting to give and all that from just being out in the elements for 20-something years without any maintenance. It's not using it to get up to the monster. You just go up the monster seats.
You get the opportunity. You climb in the ladder?
No, not after I saw that baseball dent. It'd probably break under my weight. Definitely not. I'll climb up to it maybe. But I'm not climbing. Would you?
No. Hard no from Luke, too, back here. Out on that immediately.
No, I'm not climbing. I will admire the ladder from afar.
Some minor news, but Alex Bregman spoke after the game. Said he's hoping to come back before the break, but if not, immediately after. He also said he will not be playing in the All-Star game to focus on his health and being prepared.
That's probably for the best. Imagine if he pulled a Kyrie Irving the way this team is going. Yeah, I know I've been out 2 months, but I'm going to play in the All-Star game.
Where are you on Craig Breslow deserves a ton of credit because the only Red Sox All-Stars are Craig Breslow moves?
I guess. How hard was it to sign a guy that's like perennially been a middle-of-the-lineup bat on a dynasty team and a guy that always sort of looked like a front-end starting pitcher? Chapman, I'll give him credit. He kind of, but who gets credit for Chapman? Is it Breslow or is it Bailey? I would give Andrew Bailey more credit for Aroldis Chapman.
And does John Henry get the credit for Bregman?
No.
He's the one paying.
No, I'm not giving John Henry credit.
Why?
Look, there's been some good, there's been some bad with Craig Breslow. This deadline's going to determine everything. Because they've been so freaking weird at the deadline the last few years. Remember when they did that buy-sell year where they traded away Christian Vasquez and it was a clear sell move, and then they traded for Tommy Pham?
Oh, yeah. Ooh, huh.
Like that. And look, and I guess it net them Willie or Brave, so whatever. But like that, at the moment, it made no sense.
And the clubhouse was pissed, right?
And Bloom couldn't even be bothered to be in Houston. And I hope Breslow doesn't do that. I really hope, because as we've learned, he's a little robotic. Go be with the team for the deadline. Where are they? I think they're actually home for the deadline. I have their schedule here. If they're home and he's not there, that's a big problem. The Red Sox they're off on the deadline. So they play at Minnesota on the 30th. They're off on the 31st, and then they'll be home on Friday against Houston on the 1st. So Craig Breslow should be with the team. Sam Kennedy should be with the team. I'm not convinced it's not going to be another weird deadline. Because as much as, objectively, this team should add. Say what you will about how frustrating this season has been and They're still making some very basic mistakes, and they still don't look like a good baseball team. In Skaz, to your point, whoop-de-doo. They're beating up the Washington Nationals and Colorado Rockies. As we sit here right now, they're 2 games out of a wild card spot. They're 3.5 games out of the top wild card spot, with a whole half to play, essentially. You can't punt on that. They haven't been in the playoffs since 2021. They need to get in. They need to play meaningful baseball in September. Unless they monumentally collapse out of the break, but I would argue they should not be waiting until July 31st to make moves. They have ground to catch up. They need those additions sooner rather than later. I do think you have to invest in this team. But what have we heard? It's that Jarren Duran is garnering significant trade interest. It's that Aroldis Chapman is somebody that could be on the block. But Sam Kennedy and Craig Breslow have talked about being aggressive. Is it possible we get another mixed deadline? Because if you're going to be aggressive and talk about the importance of making the playoffs, you got to buy. But does that buying start after they've traded their opening day leadoff hitter, their opening day third hitter, and their opening day closer? Can you trade those 3 guys and still get better? You can. It's not going to be easy. It's crazy to think about. I was talking to George Pilecki about this when I was on with him on Saturday. Am I nuts for saying they could get a better return? They should get a better return for Jarren Duran than they got for Rafael Devers?
I've seen that out there. I can see the reasoning why.
I'll tell you the reasoning why. It's very simple. They're not trying to shed $300 million in salary. They valued unloading the contract. They don't have, trust me, they would value it with Jarren Duran if they could. He's not making enough that it matters. Player-wise, they'll get a better return for Duran than Devers, which they have to do if they're going to trade Duran. And there is an argument for trading Duran. It kind of clears up a clog in the pipeline. You get Roman Anthony back in left field. It opens up that DH spot for Masataka Yoshida, who should not be playing first base. Ideally, you trade Duran for a right-handed hitting first baseman. And Chapman, I wouldn't trade him, because if you want to make a run, you need a closer. But also like a good closer at the deadline. And we've seen this with Chapman himself in the past. You can really clean up trading a good closer at the deadline. And even if the Red Sox make a little run to the playoffs, they're not winning the World Series with this team. They're not. So there's a case to be made to trade. Well, they already traded one of them, Endeavors. There's a case to be made to trade Duran and Chapman. It'll just be wild to see if Craig Breslow can navigate this. If Craig Breslow can navigate trading away, again, did Duran hit leadoff on opening day, or was he benched on opening day? But like their early season leadoff hitter, right? He was hitting leadoff for most of the season until recently he's been moved down in the lineup. If you can trade your leadoff hitter from the start of the season, your number 3 hitter from the start of the season, and your closer from the start of the season, and still improve the roster at the deadline, I will give Craig Breslow a ton of credit for that. Because that is some Cirque du Soleil high-level contortion gymnastics. You could also try to trade those guys and it could go very, very wrong. As it did with Devers, where they did not prioritize the right things in the return and they set the team back. So it's going to be a big couple months here, and this is make or break for Craig Breslow, because I don't think he's going to have that long of a leash. If they don't make the playoffs this year, he goes into the hot seat next year having traded away Rafael Devers and who knows who else at the deadline. And the one thing I'll say again, and I feel strongly about this, and I'm surprised more people don't have this take. And this is actually across all sports. This is not just a baseball take. The trade deadline date, April 31st, whatever it is, February 1st in hockey. The trade deadline date is not when you should be making the moves. That's when you're done. Especially if you're a team like the Red Sox that has ground to make up. I would want those guys added sooner rather than later. Get that benefit for another 5, 10, 15 games. Also, if you make the trades earlier, as a team that is buying, which the Red Sox, at least to some extent, should be, you're setting the market. It's probably going to be cheaper. The same player in a buyer's market, which this is with the expanded playoffs, very few teams are willing to sell at the deadline because more teams are in it. It's a buyer's market generally early on because you're setting the price. The same player is going to cost you more on July 31st than he is on July 15th. And you know what? If you make the trades and you bottom out, then you sell all those guys at the deadline and you recoup some of your losses. So, do they need to make trades tomorrow? No. I'd like to start hearing some serious rumblings coming out of the deadline. And they got to run out of the All-Star break. I opened up the segment talking about how easy it is for them going into the break, coming out. Cubs, Phillies, Dodgers. Those are your 3 first-place teams in the National League. And 2 of those series are on the road. Cubs and Phillies right off the jump, coming out of the break. Load up. Get some help. Every game's going to matter here down the stretch. You already cost yourself too much time with bad fielding and everything else. So I hope they get aggressive here. I'd like to see them add, but it is going to be fascinating to see what it looks like. And a correction, thank you to Tim who pointed out on Twitter, it was Kemba, not Kyrie, that played in the All-Star game after getting hurt. Didn't Kyrie do that too?
Yeah, he
Did
went.
They both
I think he
do it?
went, and that's when he was
did he go and not play?
Stuff.
Maybe that's what it was.
Something like that.
There was something weird with Kyrie in the All-Star game and an injury too. But you're right. That was good call out, Tim. That was Kemba Walker. So I'm glad he's not playing. I'm glad Bregman's not playing though. That's good. I mean, I'm nothing against him. I'm sure he'd like to play, but team first approach. They need it. Good to see it. We'll wrap up the show next. It's Alex Barth in for Joe Murray on the Sports Hub.
Don't go anywhere. There's more Joe Murray. On the way on 98.5 The Sports Hub.